Chapter 221. I was suddenly a little worried. This was the so-called misfortunes never come singly. I didn't know if Duanmu K would be able to survive this. I was indeed a little worried. At this moment, the Red Baron looked at me and said, "Indeed, I've heard similar news. You don't have to worry too much. Suri and I will first investigate the situation on their side in detail. However, I hope that you'll be mentally prepared. Due to the lack of smooth capital flow and the lack of funds over a long period of time, Black Scorpion Corporation might go bankrupt, so it's best that you be mentally prepared. Also, there seems to be some movement in our society recently. I feel like they're trying to acquire Black Scorpion Corporation's loss-making projects. To put it bluntly, this is called looting a burning house. But since I'm working for the Red Ming Hui, of course I'll support the society's actions. However, as your friend, I know that you're a soft-hearted person, so I should still tell you about this." "What? Acquisition projects?" I was very surprised by the Red Baron's words. Suri nodded and said, "Red Baron is right. The Black Scorpion Corporation's loss-making projects were all resold to some small companies. After that, these projects either stopped or were resold again. Also, the president had been in a meeting recently. I just happened to run into someone who came to attend the meeting. He wasn't a member of our society. I've asked the secretary indirectly, and it seems that he's someone from the company that acquired the Black Scorpion Corporation's loss-making projects. It seems that our Red Ming Hui really does intend to acquire the Black Scorpion Corporation's projects, but there's no way to do it openly, so we can only deal with it through resale. The president's methods are still very good." "How can this be? The Kurosawa are already very miserable. Why does father have to make a move on the Kurosawa at this time? Could it be that the Kurosawa's loss-making projects are so important to father? It was a project that had already been abandoned. Why were they eyeing it covetously? Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya must be under a lot of pressure right now. Both of them are already in poor health. How can they withstand such a big blow? No, I've decided to talk to my father." After hearing my father's true thoughts, I was suddenly worried about Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya. After all, they had treated me well after I married Duanmu Quebec. How could I bear my father doing such a thing to them? At this time, the Red Baron walked up to me. She reached out and patted me on the shoulder, saying, "If you really have this idea, you might as well find a way to comfort them. It's better than having a conflict with the president. Don't you know him? If the guild leader wanted to do something, who could stop him or change his mind? Even Madam couldn't change his mind, let alone you. The help we've given to the Kurosawa is really a drop in the ocean. Also, misfortune never comes alone. Now, even the police and the prosecutor's office have their eyes on the Kurosawa. They definitely aren't clean either. So, they must be under a lot of pressure." I sighed and looked at the Red Baron. "Red Baron, I have to prepare for Xiao Hao's birthday party next week, so I won't be busy for the time being. After the birthday party is over, please arrange for me to go to the Duanmu's house. I want to visit my parents. Don't let my parents know. If my father finds out, he'll definitely be angry." The Red Baron shook her head helplessly. "All right, I got it. I'll arrange it for you. Don't think about anything now. Just focus on accompanying Han Hao and Yi. All right, help me these few days. I'll help you transfer 10 million RMB. You want to send it to Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya, right? I can already guess what you're going to say." The Red Baron interrupted me before I could finish. As expected, she knew me very well. I nodded and looked at her meaningfully, hoping that she would agree. "Miss, you have to know that the funds you can transfer are limited. Whether the Kurosawa can survive this crisis or not is still unknown. If you cut your own flesh bit by bit to make up for them, let's not talk about what the president will do to you if he finds out. Have you considered yourself? You need funds to get married to Han Hao. You also need funds to take care of Yi. Will the Kurosawa accept your kindness? I'm not against you doing this, but I hope you can consider it carefully. I don't want you to do something you'll regret. Do you understand?" The Red Baron reached out and hugged me gently. Ever since we arrived in America, whenever I felt helpless, the Red Baron would hug me like this. It was her unique way of calming my anxious heart. I leaned into the Red Baron's embrace and whispered to her, "I know. I won't do anything stupid. Just treat it as the last time I'll do something for their family. I can't bear to see them being depressed all day long. Even if it's just doing my best, I want to make them feel better. So, Red Baron, please help me one more time." The Red Baron nodded helplessly. After we finished talking, we returned to the living room. Xinyao had already bathed Yi. She was happily playing with Yi in the living room. I looked at Suri and saw that he also looked disappointed. I whispered to him, "Xinyao doesn't know about this yet, does she?" Suri nodded. "She doesn't know yet. This is also President Duanmu's request. After all, Xinyao has never been involved in any of the matters of the Black Nightmare Group. If Xinyao finds out, she won't be able to handle it. Dad is actually quite right. If you really can't handle it, you should send Xinyao to America first. Doesn't she still have things to do there? It's fine. Xinyao and I have saved some money from our marriage. Although it's not a lot, I've given it all to President Duanmu. You can say that I've done my best. Xinyao told me that she hasn't had a good time after being together for so long, and now something like this has happened. I don't feel good about it either." Suri's expression was very disappointed. I could tell that he wasn't in a good mood. We walked into the living room. When Xinyao saw us, she stood up with Yi in her arms. She looked at us and said, "Hubby, you're done talking? It's getting late. We should go home. I just called Dad, but he didn't pick up. He's probably too busy at the meeting." Suri nodded. He looked at Xinyao and said, "Let's go home. Milady should take Yi to rest. We still have to go home tomorrow and prepare for Han Hao's birthday party. There are a lot of things to do, so we still have to plan." Xinyao handed Yi to me. She took her bag and hugged Suri's arm. Then, she left with Suri. Looking at their loving backs, I really envied them. Chapter 222. After Xinyao and Suri left, the Red Baron went back to his room. I carried Yi back to the bedroom. I lay on the bed with Yi sitting next to me. She was having a great time playing with her toys. At this moment, my phone rang. I took it out and saw that it was Han Hao. I answered the call. "Xiao Hao. Darling, I'm done with the meeting. I just finished." I heard Han Hao's tired voice. The meeting had been going on for a long time. A few hours had passed and I was worried about his health. "You've worked hard. Have you eaten? It's very late." I was worried. "I haven't had time to eat yet, and I can't eat anything now. Something happened in the meeting, and Uncle Duanmu's entire state is not good. During the meeting, he took the medicine that he brought with him several times. We all suggested that the meeting be suspended, but he insisted on finishing the meeting. We couldn't persuade him otherwise, but my wife reminded me that I am indeed a little hungry." I sighed. It seemed that the loss of the project had really affected Duanmu Tachio. I said to Han Hao, "You should go eat something first. You can't not eat. You haven't eaten dinner yet." I'm not in a hurry." "Where's Yi? I miss Yi." "What is she doing?" Han Hao actually missed Yi. I handed the phone to Yi and said softly, "Yi, it's Daddy. Do you want to hear it?" Yi immediately perked up when she heard that. She climbed into my arms and snatched the phone from my hand. She said loudly into the phone, "Daddy. Daddy, where are you? Darling Yi, what are you doing? Did you miss Daddy?" Yi nodded seriously and said, "I miss Daddy. I'm playing in Mommy's arms. Daddy, when are you coming back?" Yi misses Daddy. I heard Han Hao say softly on the other end of the phone, "Yi, be good. Daddy misses you too, but Daddy can't go back today. Daddy has something to do tonight. Yi, you have to be good and stay by Mommy's side, okay? You can't run around and make Mommy unhappy, okay? One by one." She didn't expect that after hearing Han Hao's words, Yi would actually start crying. She cried out loudly, "Dad! Why didn't Daddy come back?" Seeing Yi crying so sadly, I couldn't do anything about it. I took out a tissue and gently wiped Yi's tears. Yi was still crying very hard. I took the phone from Yi's hand and said to Han Hao, "Xiao Hao, don't worry. Yi will be fine soon. Remember to eat and don't work too late. Your health is important." There was silence on the other end of the phone for a long time. Han Hao whispered to me, "Honey, can you come out and have a midnight snack with me later? Just find a place near home. I miss you and Yi. Can you do me the honor of having a meal with me? It won't take long." I raised my head and looked at the time. It was already 10 o'clock. Although it was very late, I also missed Han Hao. I whispered to him, "Okay, I got it. Then when you come to the door, give me a call and I'll bring Yi over." "Okay, I'll be there in 20 minutes. Then Han Hao hung up the phone. I put down the phone and turned to see Yi looking at me with a serious face. I looked at her suspiciously and asked softly, "What's wrong? Yi, why are you looking at me with such a strange expression?" "Mommy, did Daddy say anything?" Yi's expression was still serious. I smiled and stroked her hair. "You care about your daddy so much. I'm not happy that you don't care about me anymore. Your daddy said he'll find us later for a midnight snack. He said he misses you." "That's great. That's great." Yi jumped on the bed happily. Seeing her happy expression, I realized that just giving a child motherly love was not enough. She needed a good father to guide her life. After interacting with Han Hao for 2 days, I realized that many of Yi's bad habits had been changed. She also didn't speak in single words or phrases like before. Instead, she spoke in continuous sentences. I also noticed that Han Hao was very strict with Yi's language education. I got out of bed and opened the wardrobe. I didn't know what to wear for Yi because it would be cold at night. I still wanted to give her a jacket. At this time, Yi walked to the bedside and pointed at a pink dress in the wardrobe. "Mommy, I want to wear that dress." That dress was bought for her by Han Hao. No wonder she liked it so much. I took it out of the wardrobe and put it on Yi. It fit her very well. I also changed into the clothes and waited for Han Hao to call me. I tidied up a little and carried Yi downstairs to the living room to wait for the call. At this time, my parents walked in from outside. But they looked very serious. They didn't even say a word. My father went into the study. When my mother saw me, she sat on the sofa. I looked at my mother and asked softly, "Mom? What's wrong? You and Daddy don't look very happy. Why did you come back so late?" My mother sighed. She looked at me and said, "Are you and Yi going out? It's already so late." Yes. Han Hao just finished a meeting and hasn't eaten yet. He'll come to pick us up later. We'll go eat with him. It just so happens that he misses Yi and Yi misses him too. What's wrong? Mom, I rarely see you this angry. So that's how it is. Then you have to be careful. I'll tell you the details when you come back. I'm about to die from anger because of your father. Looking at my mother's angry face, I shook my head helplessly. At this time, my phone rang. It was Han Hao. I carried Yi and stood up. I said to my mother, "Mom, don't be angry. We've been married for so long. It's getting late. You should rest. We'll talk about the details tomorrow." After a simple conversation with my mother, I carried Yi out of the living room. Han Hao had already arrived at the station and was waiting for us at the entrance. When Yi saw Han Hao, she struggled out of my arms and ran in front of Han Hao. Han Hao directly picked Yi up. Yi wrapped her arms around his neck and gave him a big kiss. I walked in front of Han Hao. He looked at me and said softly, "Let's go. I've booked a table at a barbecue restaurant nearby." I nodded and followed Han Hao into the car. When we arrived at the restaurant, we got out of the car and walked in. Although it was already very late, there were still many people eating. Han Hao found a table by the window and we sat down. He ordered some simple food and started playing with Yi. I looked at Han Hao. Although he deliberately tried to show his energetic side, I could see that he was tired. Chapter 223. The food was already served. Han Hao barbecued the meat and fed Yi at the same time. He didn't care about himself at all. My heart ached as I looked at him. I whispered to him, "Xiao Hao, why don't I feed Yi? You haven't had a proper meal yet. Hurry up and eat more." Han Hao smiled and looked at me. It's okay. I miss Yi and I've eaten a lot. Darling, you don't have to worry about me. I looked at Han Hao and whispered, "I already know that there's a problem in Kurosawa again." I told Han Hao bluntly that the funds that the Red Baron wanted to transfer to Kurosawa's funds would have to go through Han Hao. Han Hao looked at me and whispered, "So you already know?" It seems like the Red Tea Society's information network is very well informed. I thought it would take some time before we found out. In fact, the society has been blocking the news. The president doesn't know how to deal with it anymore. The society is in a mess now. Little K didn't come to the meeting today, but I think he already knows what's going on. His tolerance is also very poor. I tried to contact him all night, but I couldn't reach him. I couldn't get through to him even though I tried. I thought for a moment, then looked at Han Hao and said, "Xiao Hao, I asked the Red Baron to transfer 10 million from my liquid funds. After I withdraw the money, I'll have to transfer it to the Kurosawa project through you. It's not convenient for me to show my face, and I can't let my parents know. So I'll have to ask you to do this." "Your own funds?" "Darling, last time a stranger in Kurosawa invested 10 million. Was it you?" "It must be you, and it should be under someone else's name. Where did you get so much money? Did you use the Red Minghue's money? Do your parents know?" Han Hao was suddenly angry. He looked at me seriously and put down his chopsticks. I sighed and looked at Han Hao. "Xiao Hao, can you help me one more time? I know that this amount of money is nothing to the Kurosawa right now, but it's also a token of my sincerity. This might be the last time I can transfer so much money. I don't know when my parents will find out. If they do, I might be grounded. Just treat it as me doing this for the Kurosawa, Duanmu Tachio, and Xiao Fengya, okay? Xiao Hao, please." Han Hao looked at me and suddenly compromised. He looked at me and said, "Xiao Li, I promise you, but you have to promise me that this will be the last time. I don't want to see you like this again. You used 20 million for the Kurosawa. You know, Xiao K can't pay you back with this amount of money. It's like this money is wasted. Do you know that you still want to invest for them?" I nodded and looked at Han Hao. "I know. I don't expect them to pay me back. Just treat it as my investment. Of course, this time I will let the Red Baron take my place. With her name, it won't be good for me to show my face. So please help me. Thank you, Xiao Hao. I promise you that this will be the last time. Xiao Li, do you still have feelings for Xiao K? Tell me the truth. You don't have to consider my feelings." I could see that Han Hao was a bit angry. I shook my head and said softly, "I don't have feelings for him. Don't you believe me? I already promised to be with you. Don't you believe me?" "It's not that I don't believe you. I just want to know if you still have feelings for him. After all, you two were together before." "I'm worried." "What are you worried about? Are you worried that we will still be together?" "Han Hao, you hurt my self-esteem too much. I really want to be with you. I just don't want to see the Kurosawa fall. Am I wrong? Are my feelings for you so easily shaken in your eyes? You disappoint me too much. Forget it, I don't need you to help me with this. I can handle it myself." I interrupted Han Hao's words. I stood up and walked in front of Han Hao. I grabbed Yi from his arms and left the barbecue shop without looking back. I heard Han Hao call my name behind me. Yi also cried loudly in my arms. But I couldn't care less. I didn't know what I was angry about either. Maybe it was because Han Hao didn't trust me, which made me very disappointed. I carried Yi and angrily walked back home. My phone kept ringing and I knew it must be Han Hao. I was so angry right now that I didn't want to pick up his call. Yi kept crying on my shoulder, but I couldn't care less. I carried her upstairs to the bedroom and put her on the bed. She was still crying and making a fuss. I was a bit angry. I looked at Yi and said angrily to her, "Lang Lingyu, what are you crying for? Don't cry. I want Daddy. I want Daddy. You left Daddy there." Yi cried and rubbed her eyes. "Don't cry. He's not your daddy. What do you want from your daddy?" I said it. "Don't cry. I'm angry." I put my hands on my waist and looked at Yi. She continued to cry and her cries were heart-wrenching. Her cries were getting louder and louder. I was so angry that I didn't want to care about her anymore, so I sat on the edge of the bed. Unexpectedly, Yi's cries attracted the Red Baron. She knocked on the door and walked in. First, she saw my angry face, then she saw Yi crying on the bed. She sighed and walked over to Yi. She gently picked her up and patted her back. Yi's cries gradually quieted down. After a while, Yi actually fell asleep in the Red Baron's arms. I gradually calmed down. After the Red Baron put Yi on the child's bed, she walked over to my side and patted my shoulder gently. "Come with me." I followed the Red Baron to her room. After the Red Baron closed the door, she turned around and looked at me. "What's wrong with you? Yi is only 3 years old. Why are you angry with her? It's a good thing you didn't wake the president and his wife up. If you woke them up, they would definitely scold you. What's the reason? Tell me what's wrong." I sighed and looked at the Red Baron. "It's nothing. I just don't feel right. Tell me the truth. Are you trying to hide your thoughts from me?" The Red Baron put her hands on her waist and looked at me with disdain. I pursed my lips and described my conversation with Han Hao to the Red Baron. The Red Baron thought for a moment and said, "Based on what you said, I think Han Hao didn't do anything wrong. Even if Han Hao did something wrong, Yi didn't do anything wrong. You shouldn't get angry at Yi and yell at her. She didn't do anything wrong for missing her father. You shouldn't vent your anger on Yi." Chapter 224. I thought about it for a moment. I really shouldn't have treated Yi like that. Then, the Red Baron looked at me and said, "How about this? Yi finally fell asleep, so let's not disturb her today. When you wake up tomorrow morning, you have to apologize to Yi. Yi is the most sensible child I've ever met. If you were to throw a tantrum at her, she would remember it. Children are their parents' mirrors. So, remember to apologize." I sighed and looked at the Red Baron. "All right, I got it. I was too anxious. Maybe it was because I didn't feel safe. I already cared a lot about him, but I didn't expect him to think that I still loved someone else." At this time, Red Ju's mobile phone rang. She glanced at the mobile phone, then looked at me and said, "Okay, let's go to the garden and listen to how he will explain to you. He has called me no less than 20 times since the beginning, and he probably called you even more. Just now, he sent me a message saying that he is waiting for you in the garden and asked you to go down. If you believe me, go down and give him a chance to listen to how he explains to you. If he is really wrong, you have to give him a chance to redeem himself, right? Isn't that right?" I thought for a moment and nodded. I took out my phone and looked at it. As expected, there were dozens of calls and texts from Han Hao. I sighed and left the Red Baron's room. I went downstairs and came to the garden. As expected, I saw Han Hao standing under the big tree in the garden. I walked up to Han Hao and looked at him. He looked at me with deep affection. Just as I was about to speak, Han Hao reached out and pulled me into his arms. I was stunned. He cupped my face and kissed me gently on the lips. He hugged me tightly in his arms. Before I could resist, Han Hao hugged me even tighter. After a while, Han Hao lifted his head and looked at me. I was blushing, but I wasn't sure if he could see that. Han Hao looked at me with deep affection in his eyes. I sighed and was about to speak when Han Hao pulled me into his arms again and gently stabilized me. I couldn't resist at all. After a while, Han Hao lifted his head and looked at me again. What else do you want to say? I closed my mouth tightly. I was afraid that if I opened my mouth again, he would kiss me again. Han Hao seemed to see my hesitation. He reached out and gently brushed my nose. All right, say it. I won't force a kiss. I'll let you talk. I sighed. I was about to speak, but I suddenly forgot what I wanted to say. It seemed like I wasn't that angry anymore. I looked at Han Hao and said, all right, I forgot what I wanted to say. I don't think there's anything else to say. Let's just let bygones be bygones. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Han Hao hugged me in his arms. He gently stroked my hair and said, silly, I've reflected on it just now. Indeed, I didn't consider your feelings when I said those words. Actually, I didn't mean it that way. I was just afraid. I was afraid that you would leave me. But I know that your feelings for me are true, so I'm very satisfied. So please don't be angry. I shouldn't have thrown a tantrum at you and left without looking back. I did something wrong just now too. I vented all my anger on E. E was crying so hard. If Red Jew hadn't coaxed E, I would have let her down the entire night. I'll have to apologize to her tomorrow morning. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have thrown a tantrum at her. Han Hao nodded. He looked at me and said, how about this? I'm also responsible. Let's apologize to E together tomorrow. Does E have anywhere she wants to go? We'll take her to have fun tomorrow. That's good too. But Kurosawa is such a big thing. Is it appropriate for you not to go? Don't let us delay the important matters. That won't happen. The chairman hasn't made a clear decision yet, and the board of directors hasn't made any announcements. I've already told the secretary to call me immediately if there's anything. All right, I know of a fun place where all the children go for morning classes. Let's sign E up. She can even play with children her age. What do you think? I think E is so cute. When she grows up, I want her to learn how to dance. I want her to be a beautiful little angel. What do you think? That's a good idea. Let's do it then. E and I will be waiting for you tomorrow morning. I glanced at my watch. After all the trouble, it was already 11:30. I said to Han Hao, it's getting late. You should go back early and rest. You must come early tomorrow. Han Hao looked at me and smiled. He reached out and touched my chin. He looked at me with a smirk and said, what's wrong? You can't bear to part with me? It's rare that you can't bear to part with me. What should I do? I can't bear to leave you either. Han Hao held me in his arms. He gently buried his head in my shoulder and kissed my neck. My whole body felt hot and I held onto his collar tightly. Han Hao's hand stroked my back. My breathing was a little short and I collapsed in Han Hao's arms. Han Hao put his hand under my shirt and I didn't dodge. I just hooked my arms around his neck and kissed his lips. Han Hao's hand wandered all over my body. I couldn't stand still. Han Hao held me with one hand and stroked my body with the other. I couldn't take it anymore. I whispered into Han Hao's ear, Xiao Hao, don't do this. I can't stand properly. Xiao Hao. Han Hao looked at me and smiled. He gently kissed my neck again. My body became even more limp and I collapsed in his arms. I was already tortured beyond recognition. I gasped for air and felt like my whole body had been electrified. After a while, Han Hao stopped. He looked at me and smiled. This is your punishment for being disobedient today. Next time, if you're disobedient, I will. You know what I mean. Han Hao cupped my face and kissed my lips softly. Then he looked at me and said, all right, it's getting late. I have to go. You should rest early too. After I sent Han Hao off, I went back to the bedroom. E was still sleeping soundly in the baby bed. I gently covered her with the blanket. Maybe it was Han Hao's intimate actions that ignited my desire. My body was still a little hot. Maybe it was because I had feelings for Han Hao. I was actually fantasizing about having sex with him. My face turned red again. Chapter 225. She rubbed her eyes and looked at me, as if she was still angry with me. I picked her up and gently patted her back and said, Mommy has something to tell you. Can you let Mommy finish? Rubbed her eyes and nodded. I sighed and looked at Mommy was wrong. Mommy shouldn't have lost my temper with yesterday. Didn't do anything wrong. I shouldn't have vented my anger on you and didn't consider your feelings. So, can you forgive Mommy? Don't be angry with Mommy anymore. Mommy won't do this again. I promise you. Stopped crying and looked up at me. She reached out and hugged my neck. Then she said softly, isn't angry anymore, but misses Daddy. There was a trace of sobbing in her voice. It seemed that her mood was really affected because she didn't say goodbye to Han Hao yesterday. I looked at and said, be good. Daddy came over yesterday when you were asleep. He said that he was going to take out to play today, to a place where there are a lot of children. He told us to wake up early. So, needs to wash up and eat breakfast now. Do you understand? Looked at me and nodded sincerely. Then she struggled out of my arms and ran to the bathroom. I was very happy to see being so obedient. After I took to wash up and eat breakfast, I received a call from Han Hao. We set off. As soon as we walked out of the door, we saw Han Hao. Ran over to him as if she was flying. Han Hao picked her up. The two of them were so close that I felt a little jealous. We arrived at the Early Childhood Education Center. There were a lot of classes for young children. There were a lot of parents and children here. As expected, there were a lot of children around age. Was very excited when she arrived and looked around. Han Hao quickly signed up for a year's classes. This place was like a kindergarten. Babies could stay here for the whole day or leave with their parents after class. It was all voluntary. It was more convenient for office workers. I happened to see the price of this Early Childhood Education Center. It wasn't something that an ordinary family could afford. Han Hao signed up for a year's classes. It must have cost a lot, but I could see that Han Hao really liked At this time, Han Hao came to me with the class schedule. He handed it to me and said softly, Dear, I've signed up for classes. She can start class today. I just took a look. In 10 minutes, the class is for children's ballet. I also bought a beautiful dance outfit for After he said that, Han Hao took out a beautiful ballet outfit from behind him. Eyes lit up when she saw it. After we changed clothes, we entered the classroom. The teacher was very gentle and patient with all the children. Wore the little dress and stood in a row near the side. Unexpectedly, the teacher brought to the front row and had her stand in the middle. I looked at Han Hao. Han Hao smiled at me and said softly, VIP. You know. Indeed, Han Hao had spent so much money. No matter what, he should be a VIP. Han Hao and I looked at She was very serious as she followed the teacher's instructions. Even if some of the movements were difficult for her, she would still do her best. Her tenacity was very similar to mine. Even the teacher praised When it was time for half-time, ran to our side. Han Hao hugged and asked softly, how is it? Do you like it here? Nodded. I like it here. There are so many children here. Just now, the teacher told me that there will be an art class later. I'm so happy. Just then, a staff member from the Early Education Center came to us. She smiled and greeted Han Hao looked at her and said, Oh, you're here. This is my daughter. I'll leave the rest to you. Yes, Mr. Han. The woman looked at and said, Hello, From now on, you'll be with me in school. Can you call me Teacher Xiao Mei? Looked at her and smiled. Hello, Teacher Xiao Mei. Teacher Xiao Mei gently stroked hair. At this time, Han Hao stood up. He looked at Teacher Xiaomei and said, "I'll leave the rest to you. I'm going to take my wife out for a bit. We'll be back after lunch. If there's anything you need during this period of time, please remember to contact me." Han Hao turned his head and looked at Yi. "Yi, Dad is taking Mom out to do something. We'll come back to pick you up after lunch, okay? Just be good and listen to Teacher Xiaomei, okay?" Yi looked at Han Hao and nodded. "Dad, I understand. I'll be good and wait here for Mom and Dad to pick me up. Dad, you guys go do your thing." With that, she ran off to class without looking back. Han Hao pulled me out of the early education center. After we walked out of the center, I looked at Han Hao and asked, "Xiao Hao, why are you in such a hurry to take me out? Is it okay to leave Yi here alone? I'm still a bit worried. After all, she's never left my side for too long. I'm still a bit worried." Han Hao pulled my hand and walked forward without looking back. He whispered to me, "Don't worry, I've already paid for it. I've also done my research. This early education center has the best reputation. I also paid for Teacher Xiaomei. For the sake of money, they'll take good care of Yi. You don't need to worry. How could I bear to see anything happen to Yi? I just want to take you somewhere right now." Hearing Han Hao say that, I didn't say anything else. I just followed his footsteps, wanting to know where he was taking me. There was a 5-star hotel not far from Yi's early education center. Han Hao took me there and went straight upstairs to a room. Han Hao suddenly walked behind me and put his hand on my shoulder. He handed the room card to me and said, "Open it." I froze. Was Han Hao going to take me to a hotel? No way. Could it be that my performance yesterday was too obvious and he found out? That shouldn't be. There was clearly no light. How did he find out? Impossible. It must be something else. I shouldn't panic. Chapter 226. I took the room card and opened the door. I saw that the lights in the room were dark red. The floor of the room was filled with small candles and rose petals. In the middle of the room was a dining table with candles, steak, and red wine. The table was covered with flowers. Han Hao suddenly reached out and hugged me from behind. He softly whispered into my ear, "Do you like it, darling?" My face was a little red as I leaned into Han Hao's embrace, not knowing what to do. This warm scene suddenly made my heart beat faster. At this moment, Han Hao walked in front of me from behind. He knelt on one knee in front of me and took out a diamond ring from his pocket. He looked at me and softly said, "Xiaoli, I know you don't like to show off, so I planned this marriage proposal. Although you just agreed to be with me not long ago, my feelings for you are very, very deep. I think you should understand my feelings for you. Right now, I really want to take care of you and Yi. Can you give me this opportunity? Xiaoli, promise me. Will you marry me?" Han Hao looked at me with deep affection. I looked at Han Hao. I had been completely conquered by him. How could I have the heart to refuse him? My eyes glistened with tears. I suddenly felt that my heart didn't have to wander alone anymore. I looked at Han Hao and nodded. I softly said to him, "Xiao Hao, I'm willing. I'm willing to marry you. I'm sorry that it took me so long to say yes." Han Hao's eyes were also wet. He put the ring on my hand and gently kissed it. Then he stood up and hugged me in his arms. He gently kissed my lips. Han Hao looked at me and softly said, "It's not too late. I'm satisfied with this answer. I don't care about anything else. Xiaoli, thank you for giving me the opportunity to truly have you." Han Hao lowered his head and kissed my lips again. I hugged him tightly and felt his gentleness. At this moment, Han Hao carried me horizontally. I hugged his neck tightly as he carried me to the bed. I knew that I couldn't avoid this tenderness, so I chose to accept it. After all, this was the man I loved deeply. Han Hao carried me to the bed and pressed his whole body on top of me. My face was a little red and I didn't know what to do. At this moment, Han Hao looked at me and gently kissed my neck. He softly said, let's finish what we didn't finish yesterday, shall we? My face turned even redder. I said softly, I haven't taken a shower today. I was completely incoherent. I didn't know what I was talking about. At this moment, Han Hao hugged me and smiled. He looked at me and said, "Silly girl, let's take a shower together. I want to take a shower with my dear wife too." Then, Han Hao carried me and I sat opposite him. Han Hao said softly, "I'm going to start undressing you." Hearing Han Hao's words, my face turned even redder. Han Hao reached out and started unbuttoning my shirt. However, I could feel Han Hao's hand tremble. Han Hao glanced at me. I lowered my head and didn't dare to look at him. Then Han Hao said softly, I'm going to test the water temperature." Then, Han Hao ran to the bathroom and took a bath towel to cover me. Then, he rushed into the bathroom again. Maybe because he was too nervous, he didn't close the bathroom door. When I walked to the bathroom door, I saw Han Hao standing at the bathroom door. He had his back to me as he turned on the water and tested the temperature of the water. When the temperature was about right, Han Hao suddenly stood up and took off his shirt. Han Hao's perfect body appeared in front of me. Then, he started taking off his pants. I stood behind him and watched him take off his shirt, pants, and underwear. Then, he stepped into the bathtub. My face was very red and my heart was beating very fast. Han Hao suddenly looked at me standing at the door. He was so scared that he shouted, "Shaoli, why are you here? When did you appear? Could it be? God. You couldn't have seen me when I was changing, right? You saw me." Han Hao's face became very red. Looking at his shy appearance, I laughed. I walked over to him and sat in the bathtub. I walked towards him and took off the towel draped over my body. I walked into the bathtub and sat opposite Han Hao. Han Hao looked at me and his face was very red. I looked at him and smiled. I walked to his side and gently leaned on Duanmu Kei's shoulder. Han Hao took the opportunity to hug me in his arms. I leaned against his chest and could hear his heartbeat. After soaking for a while, I gently wiped his chest. Han Hao's face turned even redder. I could feel that his desire must have reached its peak. Thinking about it, it didn't seem good for me to tease him like this. Just as I was about to leave his embrace, I didn't expect him to hug me even tighter. Han Hao cupped my face and kissed my lips. He said softly, "What's wrong? Are you going to run away after talking?" "I'm not teasing you. You're thinking too much." My eyes flickered. Han Hao smiled and stood up with me in his arms. I tightly hooked my arms around his neck. The places where our bodies touched seemed to ignite my desire. My whole body felt weak. Han Hao walked out of the bathtub and helped me down. He took a bath towel and gently wiped the water off my body. Then, he wiped the water off his own body. Then, he picked me up again and walked out of the bathroom to the bed. He put me on the bed and pressed his body against mine, looking at me with a gentle gaze. He gently kissed my forehead and said, "Shaoli, do you know how long I've been waiting for this moment? But I don't have much experience. After all, it's my first time. You can't laugh at me." I could feel that Han Hao didn't have much confidence when he said this. I reached out and hooked my arms around Han Hao's neck. I looked at him and said softly, "Xiao Hao, can you be a bit gentler? I'm a bit scared." Chapter 227. Han Hao reached out and gently stroked my face. "Silly, how could I bear to hurt you?" he said softly. Han Hao lowered his head and gently kissed my lips. He kissed my face and then my neck. I hugged Han Hao's neck tightly and felt my whole body relax. I lay under him and felt his gentleness as I gasped for air. Han Hao kissed my neck while he reached out and caressed my body. His hands were very soft and they gently caressed my upper body. Han Hao completely ignited my desire. At this moment, Han Hao raised his head and looked at me. I still hadn't reacted. Han Hao said softly, "Darling, you look so beautiful right now." Han Hao also lay down beside me and hugged me gently. His body was covered in sweat, his heart was beating fast and his breathing was very loud. I took a tissue and gently wiped the sweat off his face. Han Hao hugged me and patted my back gently. He looked at the time. It was already 11:30. There was still half an hour before Yi's class ended and lunch was over. Han Hao whispered to me, "It's getting late. There's still half an hour before we have to go and pick Yi up." I snuggled into Han Hao's arms and hugged him tightly. I haven't laid down enough. I snuggled into Han Hao's arms like a kitten. Han Hao looked at me acting cute and smiled. Be good, be good. Let's go and take a shower now. We'll have plenty of time in the future. But Yi's class is about to end and we promised Yi that we'll go and pick her up after lunch. We have to keep our word in front of the child. If we don't keep our word, we'll teach the child the wrong things, okay? I sighed and nodded helplessly. Han Hao gently stroked my hair and said, "Be good, darling. I also want to be lovey-dovey with you like this. We'll have plenty of time in the future, okay? Let's go and take a shower." Han Hao stood up from the bed. He carried me horizontally and walked towards the bathroom. Han Hao wasn't as shy as he was at the beginning. After a round of passion, I felt that Han Hao was even more manly. He carried me into the bathtub and gently wiped the sweat off my body. I could feel the warmth of his arms. I turned my head to look at him and gently wiped his body. Han Hao looked at me with a smile. His expression was very gentle. I didn't know why, but for a moment, it reminded me of Douanmu, Quebec. I was stunned and stopped. "Darling, what's wrong?" Han Hao looked at the dazed me and asked. When I heard him call me, I reacted. I shook my head and threw myself into his arms and hugged him tightly. Han Hao hugged me too. I really cherished the time I had with him. I didn't know why, but I was suddenly afraid that he would leave me. After Han Hao and I cleaned up, we ate a simple meal and left the hotel for Yi's early education center. On the way, Han Hao held my hand. After a long time of torment, he was even more energetic. On the other hand, I was a little tired. Moreover, there was a dull pain down there. I sighed in my heart more than once. Han Hao was really amazing. He tormented me until my limbs were weak. Han Hao looked at my listless appearance and said worriedly, "What's wrong? Darling? Is it because you did it just now? Why do I feel like you don't have any energy at all? Or did you catch a cold? Do you want to go to the hospital?" I shook my head and looked at Han Hao. "It's nothing. It's a little uncomfortable down there. Maybe it's because I haven't done it for a long time." Han Hao looked around and saw that there was no one around. He leaned close to my ear and whispered, "I'll tell you a secret. Actually, it's quite painful down there, but I can endure it. After Yi's school is over, let's not go anywhere else. Let's just go home and have a good rest. I'll also tell Uncle and Auntie about our marriage." Hearing Han Hao's words, I nodded in agreement. Han Hao and I arrived at Yi's early education center just in time for lunch. I looked through the glass window and saw that Yi was eating. The lunch in the early education center was very good. I saw that Yi was eating very happily. All of the children were eating seriously. Han Hao and I sat in the corridor and waited for Yi to finish eating. After the children finished eating, all of the children came out. At this time, Yi also came out. She saw us and ran over to us. She threw herself into Han Hao's arms. Han Hao kissed Yi and then said to Yi, "Darling girl, did you have fun this morning?" Yi nodded vigorously and said, "Yes, yes. There are a lot of fun things to do here. There are also a lot of children around my age. I even became good friends with one of them." At this time, a little boy came out of the classroom. Yi climbed down from Han Hao's arms. She ran over to the little boy and then pulled him over to us. She looked at us and said, "Mommy, Daddy, this is my boyfriend. His name is Yi." Han Hao and I looked at each other and couldn't help but laugh. Han Hao looked at Yi and patted Yi's head. He smiled and said, "This is your boyfriend." Yi's boyfriend. Hello. You're so handsome. The little boy held E's hand tightly and said softly, "Hello, Uncle and Auntie." At this time, Han Hao looked at E and said, "E, it's getting late. We have to go home. Your little boyfriend is going home later too. Can you two meet again next time?" Chapter 228. After saying goodbye to E's boyfriend, we drove home. On the way home, E was very excited. She told us about what had happened at the early education center. It seemed that E really liked the early education center. Han Hao and I agreed that we would bring E to class whenever we had time. On the way home, I was still listless. Han Hao turned to look at me and then reached out to touch my hand. He said softly, "Darling, are you still not feeling well? I'll drive faster and get home faster." Han Hao increased the speed of the car. Not long after, we arrived home. When we got home, we got out of the car and entered the house. My parents were sitting in the living room, one on the left and one on the right. Both of them were doing their own things and didn't speak to each other. It seemed that the conflict between my parents hadn't been resolved yet. Han Hao stood at the door with E in his arms. He could tell that there was a problem between the two elders. He said softly to me, "Darling, what's going on? Why is the atmosphere so awkward?" I whispered into his ear and told my parents about what had happened 2 days ago. At this time, Han Hao walked over with E in his arms. He said loudly, "Uncle, Auntie, we're back." My parents looked up and saw Han Hao. My mother said, "Xiao Hao, you're back. Where did you go today?" We enrolled E in an early education center. Today was her first day of class and she felt pretty good. At this time, Han Hao looked at my father. He handed E to my mother and then said to my father, "Uncle, I have something to discuss with you about the Kurosawa. Let's go to the study." "All right, follow me." My father stood up and followed Han Hao into the study. I looked at my mother. She looked very serious today. She was probably still angry with my father. I walked over to my mother and sat down. I looked at her and said softly, "Mom, what's wrong?" "I'm fine." Although my mother said that she was fine, she was definitely very angry. I called the nanny and asked her to take E to the Red Baron. Then I looked around to make sure there was no one around. I said softly to my mother, "Mom, it's okay. There's no one here. If you have something to say, just say it. If you don't say it, it'll be hard for you to keep it in your heart. I don't feel good about it." My mother sighed. She said to me, "Your father is too selfish. I used to think that he was a hard-working person. I didn't expect that he would become so cunning as he got older. Now he learned how to take advantage of others." I looked at my mother in confusion and asked softly, "What's going on?" "Mom, tell me in detail. Don't be angry. You should have heard about the internal problems in Kurosawa. People in their company poached part of the company's internal funds and caused many projects to go bankrupt. Tell me, when you married Xiao Kei, let's not talk about how Xiao Kei treated you afterward. Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya treated you very well. Even when Xiao Kei didn't treat you well, they were on your side. Tell me, with this kind of relationship, it's not like you won't interact with each other just because you don't want to be in-laws. Shouldn't you help each other at this critical time? But what about your father? He secretly sent people to empty Kurosawa's deficit projects behind my back. The Kurosawa couldn't auction these projects, but your father used 2 hands to merge these projects into the Red Minghue's name. How could Duanmu Tachio not know about it? No one is a fool. They just don't want to lower themselves to our level. When I found out about this, your father actually told me to stay out of it. At that time, I was so angry that I didn't know what to say. When I found out, I immediately called Xiao Fengya. Just by listening to her voice, I knew that she must be tortured to death. Because of this, I came back and quarreled with your father. Your father said that I didn't understand him, and I said that he was heartless. Just like that, we quarreled and neither of us wanted to talk to the other. Hearing my mother's words, my heart warmed. Or maybe it said that women's hearts are soft. Looking at it now, it was just as Suri said. My father really did buy Kurosawa's bankrupt projects. It was really too much. I looked at my mother and said, "Mom, don't be angry. I did hear about the Kurosawa incident. Dad did go overboard, but you don't have to be angry with him. You're already an old married couple. Don't let this affect your relationship of so many years. As for Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya, after I celebrate Han Hao and Yi's birthdays, I will find time to visit them." She took out a bank card from her pocket and handed it to me. She said to me softly, It's not good for me to go over. This is the 5 million I saved before. Please give it to Xiao Fengya for me. After all, I have known her for so many years. When we went to school together, our relationship was also very good. Now that her family is in trouble, I can't just sit back and watch. But don't let your father know about this for the time being. If he knows about this, he will definitely fly into a rage again. I'm not afraid of him, I'm just worried that his anger will hurt his body. It's not like you don't know that his blood pressure is high. He has a high blood pressure. I gently patted my mother's back and said, "Mom, I know. Don't worry. In fact, I also transferred 10 million from our company. I'm going to give it to them next week. Mom, please keep this a secret for me. I really didn't help their family because of Duanmu Quebec. I also helped Duanmu Tachio and Xiao Fengya because they cared about me. Mom, I hope you can understand." "Silly girl, I know. Don't worry. I'll take care of your father. Don't worry. I won't be angry with him anymore. I have to coax him. Only then will you be able to handle things on your side, right?" At this time, my mother saw the ring on my finger. She immediately understood. She said to me, "Right, I see that Han Hao is very good to you. He should have proposed to you. How did you two decide? When did you decide to get married?" My face suddenly turned red. I lowered my head awkwardly and said to my mother, "Xiao Hao is very good to me. He did propose to me. It's just that I haven't decided when I'm going to marry him. Isn't it too sudden? But he's really good. He's a good man. I want to cherish him. He also likes him a lot. There are some things that I can't say, but Xiao Hao can. He also helped me solve a lot of problems, so I still want to marry him." My mother took my hand and said, "When you meet the right one, cherish him. Your father and I both like him. He's a good child. He's filial and sensible." Chapter 229. Also, you might not know this, but a lot of information about the Kurosawa came from him to your father. Although it's immoral, your father also used some extreme methods, Mother said angrily. "Extreme methods? What methods?" "Mom, did Dad threaten Xiao Hao? What methods did he use?" I anxiously asked Mother. Mother looked at me and sighed. On the surface, he acted as if he had an agreement with Han Hao's father, but in reality, he was threatening Han Hao's father. He has really changed. He never had this kind of attitude before. Ever since he started earning money, he has completely changed. I don't want to talk to him anymore. That's all. Mother was obviously disappointed. If what she said was true, I couldn't let father continue like this. Because of the Kurosawa matter, our family was already in a mess. Just as I didn't know what to do, Han Hao and father walked out of the study. I looked at Mother's expression, which became even more serious. I quickly stood up and walked over. I looked at Han Hao, who was smiling at me. It seemed that he and father had a good talk. I looked at father and said softly, "Dad, Mom wants to talk to you." "You go talk to her. Han Hao and I are going upstairs." Father looked at Mother and then said to me in a low voice, "What do you want to talk about?" I pulled father's arm and said, "Dad, you can talk to my mom properly. You're already an old married couple, what can't you solve? Okay, we're going upstairs. When we finish eating and come down, you two must make up." Finished speaking, I pulled Han Haotsung upstairs. Before we left, I gave my mother a meaningful glance. I pulled Han Hao upstairs. After we entered the bedroom, I quickly closed the door. I turned to look at Han Hao and said softly, "What did you talk about with Dad? You talked for so long?" Han Hao reached out and hugged me. He smiled and said, "Of course, I told Uncle about our marriage. Nothing else." "You didn't say anything else?" I looked at Han Hao angrily. Han Hao was surprised when he saw that I was angry. He said to me softly, "Honey, what's wrong?" "I just talked to Uncle about our marriage. I didn't say anything else." I reached out and pushed Han Hao away. I looked at him and asked, "I hope you're not lying to me. Xiao Hao, I heard that you were threatened by my father and told him about the Kurosawa. Is there such a thing?" Han Hao was bewildered. He lowered his head and didn't look at me. I understood that Han Hao had his difficulties. Otherwise, he wouldn't compromise like that. I looked at him and felt sorry for him. I threw myself into his arms and hugged his neck tightly. I whispered to Han Hao, "Xiao Hao, why are you so stupid? Why did you do that? Does Uncle know? You will be held hostage by my father for the rest of your life. He is that kind of person. Don't think that he is just saying it casually. If something really happens to you, Dad won't let you go. Just treat it as me begging you, okay? For me, for EE, you have to take good care of yourself, okay?" Tears flowed from the corners of my eyes. "Silly, why are you crying so sadly? Auntie told you, didn't she?" "Actually, I did it willingly, because I fell in love with you when I first saw you. Your father knew that you were soft-hearted and not suited to be a spy, so he asked me to go. He said that if I didn't go, he would tell Duanmu Li Xiong about the secret information about the Black Nightmare Society that my father had provided him. It was only then that I found out about the things my father had done for Uncle. Thinking that I would be able to see you often, I agreed without hesitation, including the fact that the Black Nightmare Society's internal funds were in deficit and that the project was facing bankruptcy. I was also the one who told Uncle about it, but it wasn't my idea to ask Uncle to purchase the loss-making project of the Black Nightmare Society. I have something to ask you. I hope you can tell me honestly. Did you cause Duanmu K's internal financial deficit?" I suddenly felt that my outlook on life had collapsed. I thought to myself, if Duanmu K was forced to work for my father, but if he was the one who caused the Kurosawa's internal financial deficit, I would never forgive him. "Darling, what are you thinking about? I am indebted to the Kurosawa. I only told Uncle about the Kurosawa's current situation. I didn't do anything else. I can swear to you, I can let myself down, I can let anyone down, but I can never let my family down, I can never let you down, I can never let you down, I can never let the Kurosawa down. It's just that I didn't expect Uncle's methods to be so sinister. What I told Uncle just now was only about our marriage, not about the Kurosawa." I looked at Han Hao. He was seriously explaining to me, so he shouldn't be lying. Just as I was thinking about this, Han Hao hugged me tightly in his arms. He whispered to me, "Darling, don't think too much. Right now, you should think about what to do. Since I told you about this matter, I know it will make you unhappy, but I don't want to hide anything from you. Darling, as long as you believe me, everything else has nothing to do with me. For you, I'm not afraid of death, that's the truth." I hugged Han Hao and whispered to him, "All right, this matter is over. No one can say anything to Dad, so we can only let Mom handle it. After a while, I will go to Duanmu K's house. Mom gave me a bank card with 5 million renminbi in it. I also transferred 10 million renminbi from the Red Ming Hui. Although I'm not going to give them money, I just want to see them. I'm afraid this matter will be too big a blow to them." Han Hao nodded and whispered, "I understand. When are you going to go?" "I have to celebrate your and Yi's birthdays. Suri and Xinyao are busy with this matter right now. It won't be good if I tell them not to do it. Also, this is the first birthday I'm spending with you. It means a lot to me. So don't refuse me. This matter is finally going to start. You can't refuse." I leaned into Han Hao's arms, my heart no longer feeling so insecure. Han Hao gently stroked my hair and said to me, "Idiot, You prepared it for me. How could I refuse your kindness? Besides, I can't stay with you for long enough. I always feel like time passes too quickly. Actually, let me tell you a secret. I still haven't recovered from what happened this morning. What should I do? Turns out it's addictive. You have to be responsible for me. You have to be responsible for me. Han Hao kissed my lips. His hand reached into my clothes. It seemed like his desire was once again ignited. Chapter 230. After a while, Han Hao and I lay on the bed, so tired that we couldn't get up. After tossing and turning for a while, both of us were tired. I glanced at the time. There was still some time before dinner, so I laid in Han Hao's arms and prepared to sleep for a while. Just as I closed my eyes, the bedroom door was pushed open. Startled, Han Hao and I turned our heads to look. It was Xinyao. Sister-in-law, I'm here. I heard Xinyao and I tightly covered our blankets as she stood at the door. She also saw the two of us lying naked on the bed. She looked at us in shock. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. I don't know anything. With that, Xinyao left and closed the door. I helplessly covered my head with the blanket. Han Hao probably didn't expect Xinyao to randomly barge in from outside. He gently patted me and said, "Little fool, we should get up. I reckon Xinyao and Suri are both here. Let's hurry up and get up." I helplessly shook my head. After Han Hao and I cleaned up, Han Hao and I went downstairs. As soon as we arrived, we saw Suri and the Red Baron sitting on the sofa. The Red Baron was playing with Yi in the living room. Mother and father weren't there. After we went downstairs, I looked at the Red Baron and asked, "Red Baron, where are father and mother?" The Red Baron looked up at me and said, "The chairman and madam went out. They said they have a tea party and won't be home for dinner tonight." Tea party? It should be Madam G's tea party. Did the two of them go together? The Red Baron nodded. That's right. I think they're doing well. Hearing the Red Baron's words, I immediately understood that the two of them had made up. At this time, Xinyao looked at Han Hao with a smirk on her face and said, "Gij Han Hao, looks like you've taken down my sister-in-law. How about it? When is the wedding? I can't wait to drink." Han Hao's face turned red. He looked at Xinyao and said, "Don't be naughty. How can you be like this? Your sister-in-law and I haven't decided when to do it. When the time comes, I'll definitely tell you." I looked at Xinyao's mischievous smile and knew that she must have misunderstood. I thought for a bit and quickly changed the topic. I looked at Xinyao and said, "Why did you come here today? Are you done with the birthday party?" Suri nodded and said, Yep. The preparations for the party are pretty much done. Missy, when are you going to hold the party? Including who you're going to invite, you have to tell us in advance so that Xinyao and I can send out the invitations. Let's set it the day after tomorrow. Specifically, we'll invite some of our friends. If you have friends you want to invite, that's fine too. Invite them as well. It'll be nice if it's lively. The main thing is to celebrate Yi's birthday. Oh, right, Yi has a little boyfriend. This is Yi's request and can't be forgotten. Red Baron, take care of this matter. No problem, don't worry. Red Baron smiled and nodded. At this time, Xinyao took Yi into her arms. She smiled and asked, "Little girl, you have a boyfriend?" "My Yi is so lovable. Auntie has prepared a very beautiful little dress for you. I'll bring it to you the day after tomorrow. I personally designed it." Then, Xinyao kissed Yi on the cheek. Yi looked at Xinyao and very seriously said, "Auntie, that friend of mine is very handsome, very cute. We have a lot of children who like him, but he is willing to be with me. I like him very much." Looking at Yi's cute appearance, we all laughed very happily. After dinner, Han Hao was called back by the Kurosawa. It seemed that the Kurosawa issue was still very thorny. After celebrating his birthday this week, I had to go to the Duanmu house immediately. I had been very conflicted about my father's actions. I was conflicted about whether or not I should tell the Red Baron and Suri. Although they were the two people I trusted the most, this was our family's private matter. Would it affect my father's position in their hearts if I told them? I walked to the rattan chair in the garden. My heart was in a mess. Without Han Hao by my side, I felt insecure. I didn't know what to do. Then, Suri and the Red Baron walked over. Xin Yao didn't follow them. I looked behind them. Then, Suri said, "Don't worry, Xin Yao is taking care of Yi." The Red Baron and I found an excuse to run away. I nodded and said softly, "Oh, that's good. Why are you here? Is it because there's a new development in Kurosawa?" Suri and the Red Baron looked at each other. Then he looked at me and said, "I have bad news to tell you. You have to hold on." I was stunned for a moment. I looked at Suri and nodded. Suri sighed and said softly, "Miss, the news of Duanmu Kei's engagement has been announced. It's scheduled for the end of this month, so there's only half a month left. The woman of the engagement is the woman of the rich second generation. It seems that the family used the engagement as an excuse to promise President Duanmu that as long as Duanmu Kei and his daughter got engaged, he would invest another sum of money to save Kurosawa. If they didn't get engaged, he would immediately withdraw his investment. President Duanmu Kei was under a lot of pressure, so he agreed. On the other hand, Duanmu Kei resisted at first, but now he has completely given up and has even chosen to acquiesce." I didn't know why, but when I heard Suri's words, my heart was shocked. I said softly, "Oh, that's good. At least it can alleviate the Kurosawa's urgent situation." "That's good." The Red Baron sighed and said to me, "Can you stop lying to yourself? You obviously feel uncomfortable, but you have to pretend that you don't care. After all, he's Yi's father. Don't you have feelings for him? I don't believe you. But what can I do? I have Han Hao now, and it's good. I don't want to disturb his life, and I don't want him to disturb me. Forget it. After a while, I'll go to Duanmu's house and I won't have anything to do with them anymore." Chapter 231. At this time, Suri said to me, "Missy, don't think too much. You can do whatever you want. We will support you unconditionally. Don't be fooled by Red Baron's words. In reality, she is still worried about you. She is worried that you will be wronged." "I understand. All right, don't think about it now. Let's get Han Hao and Yi's birthday party done first. After that, I will do what I need to do. You just need to cooperate with me." After chatting with Suri and Red Baron, Suri and Xin Yao left. The Red Baron also went back to her room. I took Yi back to the bedroom. While I was playing with Yi, I received a text. I opened it and saw that it was from Han Hao. He sent me a message. "Darling, what are you busy with? I miss you. I also miss us, Yi." Seeing him say that, I smiled. I dialed Han Hao's number. "Darling, you miss me? I'm playing with Yi. Do you want to talk to Yi?" Han Hao said, "I'll talk to Yi later. I have something to tell you. First, promise me that you won't be angry." I immediately understood what Han Hao wanted to tell me. I whispered to Han Hao, "You want to tell me about Duanmu Kei's engagement with that woman, right? I already heard it from Suri. It's fine. His matters have nothing to do with me. I don't feel anything. So, darling, you don't have to worry about me being uncomfortable. Don't I have you? Between the two of us, we can't let other people affect our relationship, right? Now, I really want to be by your side. I really want to be with you. Sai, what should I do? Hurry up and marry me. I can't wait." Han Hao began to act cute. I actually felt that he was very cute. I couldn't help but laugh. I whispered to Han Hao, I already promised you. What are you worried about? It will be fine after a while. What are you doing now?" I looked at the time. It was already 8 o'clock. It seemed that the meeting ended early today. I don't know why, but I feel very tired today. Sigh, I'm getting old. As expected, I can't take it anymore. In the future, I'll have to work out properly. Hearing Han Hao's words, I could tell that he must be very tired right now. Suddenly, I felt a little worried. I glanced at Yi. She was still having fun. I whispered to Han Hao, "Wait a moment." I looked at Yi and asked, "Yi, Mummy will take you to find Daddy, okay?" Yi raised her head and looked at me blankly. Then, she nodded vigorously. I smiled and patted her head. I told her to go pack her clothes. I said to Han Hao, "Yi and I will go find you later. We have a car at home. You don't have to pick me up." "Okay, I'll talk later. I'm going to pack my things." After that, I hung up the phone. I turned around and saw that Yi had already put on her clothes. She was standing at the door with her little backpack, looking at me. I smiled at Yi and packed a few things into the backpack. Then, I carried Yi downstairs and happened to see my parents coming back from outside. Mother looked at me and asked softly, "It's so late. Where are you going with Yi?" I looked at my mother and said, Mummy, Han Hao just got off work. I want to go find him. I won't be coming back tonight. Yi misses him too." Mother looked at me in disbelief. Then, she looked at Yi and said, "My precious granddaughter, do you miss Uncle Han Hao? Don't lie to Grandma." Yi looked at her mother and said seriously, "It's Daddy. It's Daddy. I miss Daddy. I asked Mummy to take me there." Mother looked at Yi and said to me, "Why didn't you give Yi more clothes? It's pretty cold outside. Why don't you give her a jacket?" Yi grabbed my hand and pulled me outside. I turned to look at my mother and said, "Mummy, it's okay. There are clothes in the car. If it's really not okay, I'll give Yi my clothes. I'm leaving first." Then, I followed Yi out the door. Yi and I set out on our journey. Soon, we arrived at Han Hao's house. He was already waiting for us at the door. After Yi and I got out of the car, he walked over. He hugged Yi and kissed me on the cheek. He whispered to me, "Dear, you've worked hard. You even made a trip here." I turned to look at the villa behind Han Hao. Other than Han Hao's bedroom and living room lights, the other rooms were dark. I looked at Han Hao and asked, "Darling, is Uncle home? I came in a hurry and forgot to bring a gift." Han Hao reached out and stroked my hair. "My dad went on a business trip today. I'm the only one left at home." I smiled and looked at Han Hao. "Looks like I came to the right place. I can spend some time with you." Seeing Han Hao, my mood improved a lot. Seeing that he was fine, my heart also felt a lot better. Han Hao led us into the living room and directly upstairs. As soon as we entered the bedroom, my heart warmed again. Han Hao was really considerate. He had specially prepared a small window next to his big bed. I could see that the bed sheets and covers were all the latest. The whole room was very clean. Actually, Han Hao was a bit of a neat freak. Not only did he make himself very neat every day, but his work environment, living environment, and even his car were all very clean and tidy. I didn't think that was a bad thing. Actually, I was a bit of a neat freak too. That's why we were fated. Han Hao looked at me. He could tell what I was thinking. He whispered to me, "I just asked Auntie to prepare this. It's all clean. I know that Yi likes to sleep in soft beds, so I specially made the mattress thicker. The pillows are buckwheat pillows, which are good for the cervical spine. Also, I don't have any children's toys here. It just so happens that Auntie's grandson has some toys in our house. When Auntie heard that Yi was coming, she offered them to me. If you want to give Yi a bath, I'll go turn on the water now." Yi ran past us into the bedroom and went straight for the toys. I looked at Han Hao and said, "No need. Yi already took a bath at home. Xinyao already gave her a bath. Let her play for a while. When it's 10 o'clock, let her go to bed. You can't let her play too much. She'll be spoiled." Okay, I know. I won't spoil her." Han Hao hugged me from behind. He whispered in my ear, "Darling, when are we going to take a bath? Hearing him say that, I blushed again. Chapter 232. I leaned against Han Hao and looked at Yi, who was seriously playing with her toys. I whispered to Han Hao, "Don't do this in front of the child. It's not good. Yi can't be left alone. Let's shower separately." "Alright, we can't do that at night. After all, the child is still here." Han Hao gently kissed my neck and said, "Silly, I know. Then you go shower first. I'll play with Yi for a while." I nodded and took the toys to shower. After I finished showering, Han Hao went to shower. I looked at Yi and saw that she was already a little sleepy. I carried Yi to the bed, helped her change into her pajamas, and began to coax her to sleep. Just as I coaxed Yi to sleep, Han Hao finished showering and came out. He saw that Yi had fallen asleep, so he quietly climbed into the bed. He lay on top of me and looked at the sleeping Yi. He whispered, "Yi fell asleep?" I nodded and whispered, "Yeah, she just fell asleep. Maybe she's tired from the day." Han Hao suddenly flipped me over and pressed himself on top of me. Before I could react, Han Hao kissed my lips. My eyes widened and I didn't know what to do. I gently patted Han Hao's shoulder and asked him to quickly move away. After a while, Han Hao finally let go of me. He looked at me and smiled evilly. I turned my head and looked at Yi. I whispered, "Bad guy, Yi just fell asleep. What if you wake her up?" Han Hao's whole body pressed against my body, and he whispered in my ear, I know. Isn't it because I miss you? Darling, don't move. Let me hug you for a while." Han Hao hugged me tightly, as if he was afraid that I would leave. Han Hao lay on top of me for a while. Then, he got up and lay down next to me. He leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "Honey, I'm tired. I want to sleep early. I'll stay with you tomorrow." Then, Han Hao fell asleep next to me. Looking at him sleeping soundly, I could feel that he must be exhausted. I pulled the blanket over him. He must be tired. Han Hao's smooth face had stubble. I leaned on his shoulder and gradually fell asleep. When I woke up the next morning, Han Hao and Yi weren't by my side. I quickly got up and looked for the bathroom, but there was no sign of them. I stood by the window and calmed down. It turned out that Han Hao and Yi were playing in the garden. I changed my clothes and went downstairs. Just then, the two of them came back. I looked at Han Hao. He seemed to be in much better spirits after sleeping. I looked at him and said, "Why are you up so early? I just saw the two of you playing in the garden. You look much better today than yesterday." Han Hao nodded. He smiled and said to me, I feel much better after sleeping." When I woke up, I saw that Yi was already awake. She was lying on the bed looking at us. She probably woke up a while ago, but didn't dare to wake us up. Then I got up and took her to wash up, and we went out to play for a while. Just in time, I asked Auntie to make breakfast. "It looks like breakfast is almost ready. Let's go eat." I nodded. Han Hao looked at me as he ate. "Darling, I just received a call from Suri. He wants us to go back to your house early today to prepare for the birthday party. So, let's go home later." "Okay, but is there nothing going on in Kurosawa? Is it appropriate for you not to go?" "It's okay, I'll call the HR department and ask for leave. You guys are the most important. Besides, Kurosawa is busy with Xiao Kei's wedding. Everything else has been put on hold, so I don't have anything to do here. Since Suri called and asked me to go, it wouldn't be good if I didn't go. So, let's go after eating." I nodded. After eating, we went back to my house. When we got home, Suri and Xinyao were already there. They were starting to decorate the living room. When she saw us come in, Xinyao threw herself at me. She looked at me and said, "Sister-in-law, you're back. You stayed at Brother Han Hao's place yesterday, right? Ioyo, what a romantic atmosphere." Han Hao walked over to Xinyao and patted her on the head. With a serious face, he said to Suri, "Take your wife away. She's too gossipy. When Han Hao said this, his face was red. Suri walked over to Han Hao with a lewd smile and said in a low voice, "It's okay, Xiao Hao. We're both men, we understand." I could see that Han Hao's face was even more embarrassed. I quickly took over and said to Suri, Okay, don't make fun of us. Let's hurry up and get busy." "Alright, did you prepare everyone's formal attire?" Only then did Xinyao remember. She clapped her hands and said, I forgot about the important matter. I brought everyone's formal attire. Don't worry, every formal attire is unique in the world. They were all personally designed by me. Hubby, hurry up and bring me my suitcase." Suri nodded and went to the side hall to bring over a suitcase. Xinyao really did design a formal attire for all of us. For Han Hao, she prepared a white slim-fit shirt, casual suit pants, and a pair of limited edition leather shoes. According to Xinyao, there were less than 500 pairs of these shoes in the entire country. It was a birthday gift she had specially prepared for Han Hao. Xinyao prepared a red backless mermaid evening gown for the Red Baron. The Red Baron's figure was already very good, so wearing this dress made her look even more perfect. Xinyao also prepared a pair of red strappy high heels for the Red Baron, which made her look very noble. Han Hao prepared a small white dress for Yi. It was a fluffy princess dress with a pink headdress, a pair of white leather shoes, and a pair of white princess socks. It made Yi look like a little princess. I had to say that Xinyao's taste and design were the best. Yi liked it very much. After putting it on, she didn't want to take it off. At this time, Xinyao took out a silver evening gown from her suitcase. She handed it to me and said softly, "Sister-in-law, take this and change into it. I made this for you. The accessories are all here. Take it and change into it." I nodded and took the gown upstairs. After I changed into it, I realized that the dress Xinyao had designed for me was a strapless, slim-fit dress with long silver gloves on the arms and crystal shoes on the feet. The entire outfit fit my style perfectly, low-key. I looked at myself in the mirror and couldn't help but sigh. Time was like a knife. I seemed to have aged a little. When I thought about how handsome Han Hao was, I suddenly felt that I wasn't worthy of him. I walked out of the bedroom and went downstairs. Everyone's eyes were on me. I looked at Han Hao and saw that he was stunned. My face was a little red. Chapter 233. It's so beautiful. Xinyao couldn't help but exclaim. I went downstairs and walked over to them. Han Hao looked at me and reached out to gently caress my face. His expression was very gentle. "Xinyao's dress is really beautiful. Darling, you look really beautiful in it. I'm a bit jealous. If you wear this beautiful tomorrow, what if someone takes you away?" Han Hao reached out and pulled me into his arms. Xinyao's face was filled with black lines as she looked at Han Hao and said, "Ayaya, why are you watching your wife so closely? She's wearing such a beautiful dress to give you face. Tomorrow, sister-in-law, you'll dress like this. You'll definitely be the most beautiful woman." After the dresses were finalized, we began to prepare the decorations for the birthday party. Just like that, the preparations were more or less done. Because we were afraid that there wouldn't be enough time, Suri and Xinyao spent the night at our house. Han Hao didn't go home either. He stayed with Yi and me. Finally, the day of the birthday party arrived. All of us put on our dresses. The Red Baron even specially called a few girls from Red Minghui to do our makeup. The birthday party proceeded in an orderly manner. My parents, Han Hao, and Suri were already at the door receiving the guests. It was more or less troublesome for the three of us to dress up, and we still had to help Yi dress up. When we were almost done, the nanny knocked on the bedroom door and said that a child had come to celebrate Yi's birthday. I thought for a moment and thought that it should be Yi's little boyfriend from the early education center. I was almost done with my preparations. I looked at Yi and saw that she still needed a bit more. I should go out and receive the guests first. I walked out of the bedroom. There were already many people downstairs. In the corner of the living room, I saw E's little boyfriend with a woman beside him. I walked over and looked at the woman. "Hello, you must be E's mother." "Hello, I'm E's mother. I'm very happy that you brought E to my daughter and my lover's birthday party. Thank you very much." The woman smiled and reached out her hand. "Hello, about E's birthday, it was your lover who personally came to my house to tell me. That's how I found out that E and EE have such a good relationship. At the time, he also really wanted to come to the birthday party, so we came to disturb you today." I shook the woman's hand and smiled. "How is that a disturbance?" "I can't thank you enough. Don't worry, EE is tidying up. She'll come down soon." Before I finished speaking, I saw EE running down the stairs in a formal dress. She ran in front of me, took E's hand and said, "EE, you're here. That's great. Mom didn't lie to me. Let's go play." EE took a doll from behind him and handed it to E. He said shyly, "This is my birthday present for you. I hope you like it." E looked very cute when she was shy. E took the doll from his hand and gently kissed him on the cheek. Then she pulled him away to play somewhere else. I handed E's mother to the Red Baron and asked her to take care of it. Coincidentally, Xinyao also came downstairs, so Xinyao and I went out to find Suri and Han Hao. It wasn't good to leave only the two of them to receive the guests. As soon as I arrived at the garden, I saw several people standing by Han Hao and Suri. I thought something had happened, so I hurried over. Only when I reached them did I realize that someone had come to the birthday party. It was someone who used to have a grudge against me. I stood next to Han Hao and looked at the person. It was none other than Yu Xian. My expression immediately became serious. Yu Xian also saw me and sneered. It had only been 3 years since we last met, but Yu Xian had become more mature. She wore a white dress today and looked very low-key. She stood in front of us with 2 gift bags in her hands. It was obvious that this kind of occasion wasn't suitable for her to appear. Han Hao saw that my expression was a bit unnatural. He tightly hugged my shoulder and whispered to me, "Darling, you go in first. I'm here. Don't be uncomfortable." At this time, Yu Xian sneered and looked at me. "I heard that Han Hao's birthday party is going to be held at your house. I heard that you're back, so I came to attend. It's a good opportunity to see you." I looked at her and said softly, "Come in with me." Then I turned and walked into the garden. Yu Xian followed behind me. She didn't say a word. When we arrived at the pavilion, I sat down and looked at Yu Xian. She sat across from me, her expression calm. I said to her, "You didn't come here just to celebrate Han Hao's birthday, did you?" Yu Xian smiled. "You're still as smart as ever. I didn't come here just to celebrate Han Hao's birthday. It seems that the matter of you and Han Hao being together is true." I nodded and said to her, "Yeah, I've already agreed to marry him. I'll let you know when the time comes." "You're not married yet? That child isn't yours and Han Hao's?" Yu Xian looked at me as if she was questioning me. She continued, "Or, when you and Duanmu Gij got married, did you already have sex with him? Did you have Han Hao's child?" I stood up and slapped the table. I looked at Yu Xian and said loudly, "I know. You came here today to look for trouble. What does it matter to you who the child is? If you came to Han Hao's birthday party, I'll welcome you. But if you come here looking for trouble, don't blame me for being impolite." Yu Xian looked at me and sneered. She sighed and said, "That's true. What does it matter to me who the child is? I can't even keep an eye on the man I love. What right do I have to argue with you?" I looked at her. She seemed to have something to say. Yu Xian looked at me and said, "Did you know that Duanmu K is getting engaged?" She sneered and said, "I always thought that after you left, Duanmu K would belong to me. Indeed, after you left, he was depressed every day. He got drunk every day. There were a few times when I wanted to comfort him when he was drunk, but every time, he thought I was you. He pressed me down on the bed and had sex with me like a beast. At first, he didn't admit it, but after it happened so many times, he had no choice but to admit it. To tell you the truth, I was pregnant once. I thought that with a child, I could tie him down and make Uncle Duanmu and Auntie Xiao accept me. But I was completely wrong. He forced me to abort the child. Then he threw me there like a piece of garbage. When I gradually calmed down, I saw that woman and heard that he was going to be engaged. I broke down at that time. I don't even know how I survived until now. Chapter 234. I looked at Yu Xian. It turned out that she had experienced so many things during this period of time, but I didn't feel sorry for her at all. She really deserved it. Yu Xian had tears in the corner of her eyes as she looked at me and said, I don't know where that woman heard about the things that happened between me and Duanmu Gij. One day, she went to the Duanmu house and while there was no one at home, she cornered me and called 4 or 5 people to beat me up. Then she called 3 or 4 men to defile me. After that, she threatened me that if I dared to tell anyone, she would tear me apart. You don't know how much pain I'm in right now. A while ago, I went to the hospital and received a piece of shocking news. Haha, I can no longer have a child. Moreover, that woman said to Uncle Duanmu that if I still lived in the Duanmu house after she and the Duanmu K got married, she would immediately divorce me and even withdraw the investment that his father had invested in the Kurosawa. Uncle Duanmu actually agreed to her. Haha, I really am homeless now, I have nothing left. Cold Glaze, this is retribution for all the things that I have done to you. I don't have anything to think about now. Fortunately, I still have some savings. After a while, I will move out of the Duanmu house. I didn't know why, but I suddenly felt that Yu Xian was very pitiful. Maybe it was because of my maternal instincts, but I didn't hate Yu Xian as much. I sighed and looked at her and said, forget it, don't think too much. It's rare that Han Hao is so happy today, and I don't want him to be unhappy. The grudges between us, starting from today, will be written off. Even though I don't know if what you said to me is true or not, I'll treat it as if what you said is true. I also hope that you can keep your promise. Don't worry about anything else, let's go to the front and see how the party preparations are going. With that, I stood up, and Yu Xian also stood up and followed behind me. I walked over to Han Hao's side. They were also receiving guests at the entrance. This time, there were a lot of guests, and they were all good friends of everyone. I walked over to Han Hao's side and told him about my conversation with Yu Xian. Han Hao looked at Yu Xian, then looked at me and said, Dear, do you think Yu Xian's words are trustworthy? I'm not sure if they are trustworthy or not. I also told her that as long as she doesn't cause any trouble at the party, it's fine. Isn't today your birthday? I don't want anyone to disturb our mood. I held Han Hao's arm and gently comforted him. Han Hao hugged me and softly said, Okay, dear. As long as you're happy. I see that there are a lot of people here today. I'll send someone to keep an eye on Yu Xian. You don't need to worry, I'm here. Han Hao gently kissed my forehead. The Red Baron turned around and looked at Yu Xian. Hello, I'm the young Miss Personal Bodyguard. Please stay with me. I don't want anyone to cause trouble at the young Miss birthday party, so I hope you can cooperate. Yu Xian stared blankly for a moment, then looked at the Red Baron and nodded. Okay, I understand. I'll stay with you. While we were chatting at the entrance, a Ferrari pulled up at the entrance. The car looked familiar, but I couldn't remember whose car it was. After the people in the car got out, I knew whose car it was. It turned out to be Duanmu K and the woman he was going to be engaged to. I looked at Han Hao and softly asked, Did you invite Xiao K? Han Hao shook his head and softly said, No. I knew you didn't want to see him, so I didn't invite him. It's really strange. How did he know I was going to have a birthday party? At this moment, Xian Yao seemed to have remembered something. She said to me, I remember now. When Suri and I were making invitations at home, my brother saw us. He must have seen us, so he came. I didn't tell him. I told him it was a secret. I reached out and stroked Xian Yao's hair. Okay, I know it doesn't have much to do with you. Don't think too much. Let's see what they want first. I looked at Duanmu K and the woman. Duanmu K was wearing a black suit, and the woman was wearing a black spaghetti strap dress. Han Hao was holding 2 gift bags, and the woman was holding Duanmu K's arm. She had a strange smile on her face, and I could tell she didn't come with good intentions. Duanmu K and the woman came in front of Han Hao. Duanmu K looked at Han Hao and softly said, "Xiao Hao, happy birthday. This is a birthday present I prepared for you and your baby. Please accept it." The woman sneered and looked at Han Hao with disdain. "So you're Han Hao? I've heard Duanmu K talk about you. So you're the woman that Duanmu K didn't want." The woman turned her head and looked at me. "It's not that great. You guys are fighting over it? TSK. No wonder you can't compare to Duanmu Quebec. Your taste is really bad." At this time, Xinyao couldn't stand it anymore. She rushed in front of the woman and shouted at her, "You shut up. Don't think that just because my brother wants to marry you, you can talk to my sister-in-law like that? You're really shameless. Let me tell you, you and my brother don't have any feelings. I don't know how my brother could fall in love with a slut like you." "Shut up, sister-in-law. I'm telling you, you only have me as your sister-in-law right now. Don't push your luck." The woman rushed in front of Xian Yao and reached out to hit her. Suri quickly blocked Xian Yao behind him. Seeing that the situation wasn't good, I quickly said to her, "Okay, today is my family's birthday party. You guys are welcome to come and play. I hope you don't cause trouble here." The woman glared at me. "She just happened to see you Xian standing behind us." Her eyes lit up. She pushed us aside and rushed in front of you Xin. Grabbing you Xian's neck, she said loudly, "Yo, why are you everywhere?" "What? Duanmu's family can't hold you anymore? You came here to cause trouble for others? You haven't been defiled enough, so you came here to find a man? Who do you like? Do you want me to send a man to your bed again?" The woman's expression looked like she wanted to eat you Xian. You Xian shook off the woman's hand, hugged her head, and squatted on the ground crying. The Red Baron quickly stood in front of you Xian. She looked at the woman and said, "You want to cause trouble at the Lang residence? We welcome you to the party. If you want to cause trouble, don't blame me for being impolite." The woman looked at the Red Baron and sneered, "And who are you? Do you know who I am? You dare to bark at me?" Chapter 235. Han Hao looked at the woman, afraid that she would cause trouble here. He looked at Duanmu K and said, "Xiao K, I'm glad you came, but I really don't welcome your fiancée, so please take her away." Before Duanmu K could say anything, the woman rushed in front of Han Hao, pointed at Han Hao's nose and said, You want me to leave? Don't think that because it's your birthday today, I won't dare to do anything to you." I could see that Han Hao wasn't happy, and was about to argue with the woman, but Han Hao blocked me behind him. He looked at her and said, "I'm sorry, I'm giving Duanmu K face, so I don't want to argue with you. Today is my daughter's birthday party, and I don't want anyone to cause trouble here. So, I don't welcome you, so please leave immediately." Han Hao pointed at the door, wanting her to leave quickly. As soon as Han Hao finished speaking, the woman's face turned blue. Before anyone could react, she slapped Han Hao in the face. Han Hao held his face and lowered his head, but didn't say anything. I looked at Han Hao's face, which was red from the slap. I turned around and looked at the woman, who was smiling proudly. Duanmu K stood behind her, not saying a word. I looked at Duanmu K and said softly, "Xiao K, Xiao Hao is your brother. It's not appropriate for you to let your fiancé cause trouble here. You see, the atmosphere is very awkward. I hope you can take your woman and leave. I don't need her to apologize to Xiao Hao." The woman looked at me and shouted, "Apologize? Did I not get beaten enough? Let me tell you. You want me to apologize? Impossible. Don't think that because you had a good relationship with Duanmu K, you can do whatever you want to my man. Who do you think you are? I'm not afraid to tell you that I came here today with a temper. Last time, you slapped me. This time, I'll give your man a light slap. Don't think that because you have so many people supporting you, I'll be afraid of you. Who do you think you are? You're pregnant with someone else's child before you're divorced. You think I didn't investigate? You and Han Hao's child before you and Duanmu K got divorced, right? That's ridiculous. I heard that you pretended to be pitiful at that time. What a bitch. Duanmu K was merciful to a bitch like you? You're shameless. I sneered. It seemed that she really did investigate me quite a bit. I looked at her and said, Duanmu K's wife's wife said again. The woman looked at me and pointed at my nose. I said you are a bitch. She said, enunciating each word clearly. Bitch. As soon as she finished speaking, I extended my hand and gave her a slap. Then, I kicked her stomach and kicked her to the ground. Just as I was about to chase after her to continue hitting her, Han Hao held me in his arms. The Red Baron ran past me and sat on the woman. He gave her 2 slaps. She covered her face and looked at us in disbelief, unable to speak. Duanmu K, on the other hand, just stood by the side and didn't participate. He didn't speak either. The woman was pinned down by the Red Baron and couldn't move. She screamed loudly, which attracted a lot of people. Han Hao hugged me tightly, afraid that I would act rashly again. I looked at Han Hao's face, which was still red. The more I looked at him, the angrier I felt. The Red Baron and Xian Yao kept the woman under control. Suri stood next to Duanmu K, making sure that he didn't do anything rash. At this moment, my parents walked over. My father looked at us and then at me. He asked, what's going on? What happened? Before I could open my mouth, Han Hao told my parents what happened. My father looked at the woman who was pinned down on the ground. He waved his hand and said softly, There are so many people at home today. It's embarrassing. Hurry up and get up. Hearing my father say that, the Red Baron and Xian Yao let go of the woman. She stood up and stood next to Duanmu K, glaring at us fiercely. My father looked at the woman and then sneered. You should be Chief Wang's daughter, Wang Lu-er. Oh, you know me? That's even better. Your daughter and son-in-law treated me like this today. What do you think we should do? Wang Lu put her hands on her waist and looked at us with an unforgiving expression. My father sneered and looked at her. Wang Lu-er, your father should have told you before. If you meet your Uncle Lang in society, you should avoid him. You should have heard of it. Wang Lu froze. She looked at my father and then said softly, I'm sorry. I'm going to make a call. After a while, Wang Lu came back. Her expression became very awkward. She looked at my father and said softly, I'm sorry, Uncle Lang. I didn't know she was your daughter. I've disturbed you today. I still have things to do, so I'll leave first. Then she turned and left. Duanmu K didn't leave with her. After watching Wang Lu leave, Han Hao patted Duanmu K's shoulder and said, Come on, let's go in and eat something. Don't just stand there like an idiot. Duanmu K nodded and followed Han Hao into the living room. The few of us followed them in. At this time, Yi held her boyfriend's hand and ran over to us. Han Hao hugged her and kissed Yi's face. Yi, how are you playing with your friend? The two of us are having a great time. It's just that I miss you, so I came to find you. Later, I'll take him to the garden to play. Yi nodded seriously. Han Hao rubbed Yi's head and said, You can play in the garden, but you can't run around and you can't talk to strangers. Promise me. Yi nodded furiously and pulled Yi to another place to play. I glanced at Duanmu K and saw that he was staring at Yi without blinking. That feeling made me feel uncomfortable. At this time, Duanmu K said to Xinyao, I don't know why, but why do I feel like that Yi looks like me? Do you think she's Han Hao's child? Could she be my child? Xinyao was stunned. She shook her head and said to Duanmu K, brother, how could that be? I'm hungry. Come on, let's go eat something good. Then, She pulled Duanmu K to the dining area. I let out a long breath. Fortunately, Xinyao had interrupted. If Duanmu K had found out, I really didn't know what to do. I turned to look at Han Hao. His face was still red. My heart ached and I reached out to touch his face. You have to disinfect it. Otherwise, it will be even more swollen. I saw that there was still some time before the party officially started. I pulled Han Hao upstairs and into the bedroom. Chapter 236. I took out the first aid kit. Inside was a tube of very good beauty ointment. It was perfect for the wound on Han Hao's face. I didn't want to hurt him, so I used very little strength. Han Hao just kept looking at me and didn't say anything. I sighed and looked at him. What's wrong? If you have something to say, just say it. Han Hao smiled. He reached out and pulled my arm. Fool, are you angry? He asked softly. Angry that Duanmu K didn't help stop Wang Lua? What's there to be angry about? If his woman wants to stop her, then so be it. If he doesn't want to stop her, then so be it. Besides, even if he didn't stop her, didn't the Red Baron and Xinyao do it for me? There's nothing to be angry about. Fortunately, father's name suppressed her. Otherwise, today's birthday party would have been ruined because of her. I put the ointment into the first aid kit. Then I looked at him and said softly, Good. This ointment is really good. Now I can't even see the wound. It's really good. All right, let's go downstairs. It'll be time soon. Han Hao nodded. He looked at the time and then at me. He picked me up and pressed me down on the bed. Before I could react, he kissed me. My face was red. I looked at him and said softly, Silly, everyone is outside. If someone really came in, it wouldn't be good. Darling, let go of me. Han Hao didn't want to let go of me. He looked at me and said softly, Don't be afraid. Our relationship has been public for a long time. What are you afraid of? As long as you're mine, I'm not afraid of anything. Han Hao kissed me again. Then he looked at me and smiled happily. I reached out and hooked my arm around his neck. I didn't want to think too much about it. At this moment, the door to the room was suddenly pushed open. It was Red Ju who came in. She looked at me and Han Hao's ambiguous appearance on the bed. She stood at the door with her hands on her waist and said softly, You two still have time to be lovey-dovey here? Hurry up and go downstairs. Han Hao and I quickly sat up. I looked at the Red Baron awkwardly and said softly, Darling, what's wrong? Go downstairs and take a look. Duanmu K seems to have realized that Yi is his child. He's holding on to Yi and won't let go. Yi is crying very hard downstairs. The chairman and madam are still receiving guests outside. Go down and take care of them, the Red Baron sighed helplessly. What? I couldn't care less. I lifted my skirt and ran downstairs. When I reached the living room, I didn't see Duanmu K and the others. At this moment, the Red Baron and Han Hao followed me downstairs. The Red Baron looked at me and said softly, Xinyao brought them to the study. I quickly ran to the study. When I reached the study, I saw Duanmu K pulling Yi's arm. Yi kept dodging him and crying loudly. Xinyao kept comforting Yi. Suri stood next to Duanmu K and tried to reason with him. Uxin also stood on the side without saying a word. Looking at Yi crying her heart out, I couldn't control myself at all. I ran over and slapped Duanmu K's hand away, then took Yi into my arms. Yi looked at me and hugged me tightly as she cried loudly, Mama. Seeing Yi cry, I couldn't control my tears either. Han Hao and Red Ju also rushed over. I handed Yi into Han Hao's arms. Han Hao took Yi and gently comforted her. I turned my head to look at Duanmu Quebec. He looked at me very calmly and softly asked, Xiao Li, whose daughter is Yi? I just looked at him and didn't answer. Duanmu K walked to my side. He looked at me and said, Tell me the truth. Whose daughter is Yi? At this moment, Han Hao walked over with Yi in his arms. He looked at Duanmu Ke and said softly, "Xiao Ke, don't force Xiao Li to tell you. Besides, Yi is still a child. As an elder, isn't it inappropriate for you to treat her like this?" "Shut up!" Duanmu Ke shouted at Han Hao. He looked at Han Hao and said softly, "Do you really think I'm an idiot? Yi is 3 years old this year. Before I divorced Xiao Li, she was already in Xiao Li's stomach. So, whose child is this? Did I ask Xiao Li to hide it, or was it yours? Did you and Xiao Li sleep together before we got divorced?" I didn't dare to answer. I didn't dare to let Duanmu Ke know that Yi was his daughter. I also didn't want him to misunderstand Xiao Hao. It was a difficult choice. Yi cried even harder. I looked at Duanmu Ke and said softly, "Duanmu Ke, I swear, this child isn't Han Hao's. Yi likes him." From the moment she saw him, she kept calling him daddy. And I promised Han Hao that I would marry him. So, there's nothing wrong with Yi calling him daddy. Don't misunderstand Xiao Hao. Duanmu Ke laughed coldly. He looked at me and said, "Whose child is this? Is it mine?" Duanmu Ke put his hands on my shoulders and shouted. His expression looked like he wanted to eat me. I shook off his hands and shouted at him, "Whether the child is yours or not has nothing to do with you. Duanmu Ke, don't think that you can do whatever you want to me. Yi has nothing to do with you. Don't let your imagination run wild." I didn't know why, but after I said that, my eyes became moist. I felt very uncomfortable. I turned around and walked towards the door. Duanmu Ke suddenly rushed in front of me and stopped me. He looked at me and said softly, "Okay, let's calm down. I don't mean anything else. I just think that Yi looks like me. Let's stop making wild guesses. Let's do a paternity test with Yi." I froze and said loudly, "No. Absolutely not." Duanmu Ke looked at me in disbelief and asked loudly, "Why? Why not? What are you running away from? Is Yi my child? Tell me the truth, isn't it?" "No. She has nothing to do with you. Let go of me." I shook off Duanmu Ke's hands, turned around and took Yi from Han Hao's arms. I ran out of the study and into the bedroom. I closed the door and put Yi on the bed. I couldn't help but cry. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I could have told him that Yi was his child, but I didn't tell him the truth. There was a knock on the bedroom door. I didn't answer and just sat on the bed crying. There was another knock on the door. "Dear, I know you're in there. Open the door first. Don't be afraid. It's just me. No one will take Yi away from you." I still didn't answer. I sat on the floor and cried. Then Yi climbed down from the bed. She ran to the door and opened it. Han Hao walked in from outside. He looked at me with a worried expression, but I didn't dare to look at him. Chapter 237. Han Hao walked to my side and gently stroked my hair. My heart calmed down a little. He turned to look at Yi and said softly, "Yi, go find Auntie Xinyao and tell her to postpone the birthday party speech for a while. Also, help me close the door." "Thank you." Yi nodded as if she understood. She walked out of the bedroom and closed the door. Only Han Hao and I were left in the room. Han Hao turned to look at me and said softly, "All right, it's just the two of us left. You can vent now. But don't let yourself be too sad. I don't want you to be hurt too much." I raised my head and looked at Han Hao. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I threw myself into Han Hao's arms and cried. Han Hao hugged me tightly. He gently patted my shoulder as if he was coaxing a child. After a while, I struggled to sit up in Han Hao's arms. I rubbed my eyes and looked at him. For how long I had been sitting on the floor, Han Hao had been squatting in front of me. His legs were probably numb. He kept changing his legs. I looked at Han Hao and couldn't help but laugh. Han Hao looked at me and laughed too. Han Hao stood up and looked at me with a smile. "Silly, don't think too much. Why are you crying? What's there to cry about? Let Xiao Ke think too much. The fact that Yi is his baby can't be kept a secret for too long. It might not be a bad thing for him to know. So, don't think too much. Let nature take its course. Han Hao hugged me and patted my shoulder. I lay in Han Hao's arms and felt his heartbeat. I didn't think too much. I adjusted my mood and looked at the time. It was already past the birthday party speech time. I quickly stood up from Han Hao's arms and looked at him with a frightened expression. Han Hao smiled and said, I already told them to go down later. Don't worry. Let's go down now. It's already very late. I looked at Han Hao. He thought for a moment and nodded. He took my hand and walked out of the bedroom. The two of us stood on the stairs. I reached out and touched my face. In a low voice, I said to Han Hao, Can you help me check if my makeup is off? Han Hao reached out and touched my hair. He smiled at me and said, No. My wife is so beautiful. You look good no matter what. Come, let's go down together. Han Hao pulled my hand and I held his arm. The two of us and walked down the stairs. Look. They're coming down. I heard a guest shout from downstairs, and everyone's eyes focused on us. I held Han Hao's arm, leaned on his shoulder, and walked downstairs intimately. In the crowd, I saw Duanmu Ke standing in the corner. He looked at us expressionlessly, but I still felt uncomfortable when I saw his expression. I glanced around. Luckily, Yi was in Xinyao's arms. I sighed softly. Han Hao and I walked to the middle of the living room, and all the guests gathered around us. Han Hao took a step forward and looked at everyone with a smile. First of all, I would like to thank everyone for coming to the Lang residence to participate in my daughter Yi's birthday party. I am very honored, and I would like to thank my fiancée, the eldest daughter of the Lang residence, and her friends for organizing this birthday party. I feel very happy. Today, I would like to tell everyone that I am going to marry the eldest daughter of the Lang residence, Lang Glaze, as my wife. I hope everyone will come to our wedding celebration. I hope everyone will have a good time here today. We will also have a beer party in the evening, so please enjoy yourselves and drink to your heart's content. I accompanied Han Hao to toast the guests one by one to thank them for coming. There were also a lot of people who had prepared birthday presents for Han Hao and Yi. I had already asked the auntie to move them all into my bedroom. There were a lot of people who came today, and I could see that Han Hao was very happy. I had heard from Xinyao before that the person with the best character in the entire Kurosawa was Han Hao. His circle of friends was very wide, and he didn't have any negative image. The older generation liked him very much, and the younger generation also liked to be good friends with him. However, Han Hao had also told me that there were a lot of girls chasing him. Although Han Hao's family background couldn't be compared to Duanmu Ke's, his overall situation was still very good. However, it was true that he had never been in a relationship before. Just like his friends who came today, there weren't any girls. Actually, looking at it this way, I was very satisfied, and I didn't have to worry about him being kidnapped. Halfway through the toast with Han Hao, he just happened to see his high school classmates greeting him. Han Hao looked at me and said, Dear, my classmates are over there. I have to go and say hello to them, is that okay? I nodded. Han Hao kissed me on the forehead and ran over. I looked around and just happened to see Xinyao and the others in the garden, so I walked over to them. Since they were standing very close to the back door of the room, I prepared to walk over from the back door. Just as I walked to the back door, I heard the voices of a few women outside the door. I heard my name, so I stopped my hand from opening the door and stood at the door to listen to what they were talking about. I heard one of the women say, Hey, did you hear that Han Hao is going to marry Cold Glaze? Isn't that right? I heard that Cold Glaze used to be Duanmu Ke's wife. After they divorced, she hooked up with Duanmu Ke's brother, Han Hao. It seems that woman isn't very good. Hearing that, I tightly clenched my fists. My heart suddenly became restless. That's nothing. I heard that she came back from abroad. Maybe it's more liberal abroad. Han Hao said that today is his daughter's birthday. I saw that little girl. She should be 3 years old. When Cold Glaze and Duanmu K divorced, it caused a huge uproar. Everyone knew about their divorce. How long has it been? It's definitely less than 3 years. That means that this child was already there before Cold Glaze and Duanmu K divorced. But Han Hao said that the child is his. That means that Han Hao and Cold Glaze were already together before the divorce. I guess Duanmu K doesn't even know that he was cuckolded. The cold laughter of the women came from outside. I couldn't listen to it anymore. Just as I was about to rush out, I heard one of the women say, "Keep your voice down. What if they hear you?" But it's really a pity for Duanmu Quebec. Such a good man actually married such a woman. Have you heard that there are internal problems in the Black Nightmare group? Do you think that Cold Glaze emptied the Black Nightmare group after the divorce? Chapter 238. Are you for Rayol? She's so bad. So the Lang residence is filled with people like this? Or are all Red Minghui people like this? I really can't believe it. Looks like we came to the right place today. What if there's some real gossip? The laughter of the women came from outside again. I really couldn't control myself anymore. When I saw them, they were cowering in the corner like cowards, crying out loud. I raised my head and saw that the person who had rushed out from my side was Duanmu Quebec. He was glaring at them like a wild beast. Duanmu K looked at them with contempt and shouted, "Scram!" Duanmu K looked at them with disdain and shouted, "Scram!" Duanmu K looked at them with his eyes wide open and shouted, "Scram!" Duanmu K looked at them with disdain and shouted, "Scram!" The women ran away with their tails between their legs. Because the back door was hidden, no one else saw them. I looked at Duanmu K and didn't know what to say. Duanmu K turned to look at me and asked softly, "Are you okay?" I shook my head and said, "I'm fine. I'm used to it. Ever since I brought Yi back to China, I rarely show her around, but people still found out. After hearing so much gossip, I got used to it. Having Yi is enough for me." Duanmu K looked at me. His expression was very calm. He said softly, "Is Yi really Han Hao's?" I was stunned and turned my head away from him. Duanmu K held my shoulders and pressed me against the wall. His face was almost touching mine. I leaned against the wall with all my strength and turned my head away, not daring to look at him. Duanmu K stared at me and asked word by word, "Who is Yi?" I still didn't answer. Duanmu K sneered. He looked at me and said, "You really want to hide it from me? You think you can hide it?" I reached out and pushed Duanmu K away. I said softly to him, "Xiao K, I'm begging you. Can you not force me to tell you? Yi really has nothing to do with you. Don't force me to tell you anything. I don't want to talk to you anymore. Please let me go." "No. You have to give me a perfect explanation today. Shaoli, don't try to run away. It's useless. You can't escape." Duanmu K held my shoulders tightly. He pressed me against the wall and I couldn't move at all. I didn't know what to do. Just when the two of us were entangled, Xinyao suddenly ran over from not far away. Her face was covered in tears. She rushed in front of me and Duanmu K and shouted, "Sister-in-law! Sister-in-law! Something big happened." Xinyao ran over to me. Her tears couldn't stop flowing. I shook off Duanmu K's hand. I looked at Xinyao and asked softly, "Xinyao, what's going on? Don't panic. Take your time." I reached out and wiped away the tears on Xinyao's face. Xinyao looked at me. She took out her phone from her pocket and handed it to me. "Sister-in-law, take a look. Yi was kidnapped. There's a video on my phone." She couldn't stop crying again. "What? What's going on?" I took Xinyao's phone and opened it. There really was a video on it. I pressed play and was shocked. In the video, a masked man was holding Yi in his arms. Yi was wearing the dress that Xinyao had given her. She was tied to a chair and wailing. The scene looked like an abandoned factory. Then, the voice in the video said, "This child is in my hands. I'll contact you later. If you dare to call the police, I'll kill her." After watching the video, I was scared out of my wits. I sat down on the floor. Dwanmu K snatched the phone from my hand. He was also watching the video. When the voice in the video appeared again, I couldn't stop my tears from flowing. Xinyao also sat next to me and cried. Dwanmu K handed the phone to Xinyao and said calmly, "Xinyao, tell Han Hao and the others about this. Don't let Xiao Li's parents know about this. Then, try your best to get the Red Baron to send everyone away. After they leave, we'll go upstairs and discuss this. Go ahead. I'll take care of Xiao Li." After saying that, Dwanmu K helped me up. He helped me to the back door of the room and led me upstairs, avoiding the crowded areas. After we entered the bedroom, Dwanmu K helped me to a chair. I was so sad that I couldn't get up from the table. Dwanmu K sat next to me. He looked at me and sighed. I knew he was worried, but he didn't know how to comfort me. I thought for a moment. At this point, it was time to let Dwanmu K know about Yi's background. I looked at Dwanmu K and said softly, "Xiao K, haven't you always wanted to know about Yi's background?" Dwanmu K looked at me blankly for a moment, then nodded. I continued, "That's right, Yi is indeed your child. I was already pregnant with her before we divorced. Although many accidents happened after that and I almost lost her, she was very strong and survived. The child is yours, but it's impossible for the child to be Han Hao's. Although I spent the night at Han Hao's house before we divorced, I was already pregnant at that time. But other than that day, I was with you almost every day. If I were to tell you that this child is Han Hao's, would you believe it?" Dwanmu K stood up. He looked at me and shouted, "Then why didn't you tell me? I forced you to tell me so many times. Why didn't you tell me the truth?" I smiled bitterly. I looked at Dwanmu K and said, "Tell you the truth? What's the point? I went abroad pregnant. When I brought Yi back and was about to look for you, you were already engaged to Wang Luo. What do you want me to tell you? Bring the child to ruin your life? I can't do such a thing. Although the child is yours, I can support her. Besides, she's already used to it. Besides, I've already promised Han Hao, and Yi likes Han Hao very much. That's enough. You're happy, and I'm happy. Isn't that good? But Yi has been kidnapped. What am I supposed to do?" I cried even harder. Dwanmu K sighed. He whispered to me, "All right, don't worry. I'll make the arrangements when the people arrive. Don't worry, I'll definitely bring Yi back. In fact, when I first saw Yi, I felt that she was my child. The aura in her eyes was exactly the same as mine. No matter what time it is, my child will definitely be able to recognize me. Don't worry, leave it to me." Chapter 239. Dwanmu K reached out and gently stroked my head. I was still crying on the table. Just then, the bedroom door was pushed open and Han Hao walked in. Without saying a word, he ran straight to Dwanmu Quebec. He grabbed his collar and punched him hard in the face. Dwanmu K lost his balance and fell to the ground. Han Hao was about to rush forward again when Suri caught up with him. Xian Yao and the Red Baron also ran in. Xian Yao ran to Dwanmu K and helped him up. I didn't understand what was going on, so I stood up from the chair. I could clearly see that Han Hao was very angry. Han Hao pointed at Dwanmu K and shouted, "Dwanmu K, tell me, did you ask someone to kidnap Yi? Yi is still so young. How could you bear to do that?" Dwanmu K stood up and looked at Han Hao seriously. "Xiao Hao, don't be angry. I swear, I really didn't kidnap Yi. She's my daughter. How could I be her helper?" I looked at Han Hao and nodded. I only told him because I knew something happened to Yi. He didn't know before, so I believe that Dwanmu K definitely wasn't the one who kidnapped Yi. I believe him. At this point, My tears fell again. Han Hao looked at me and sighed. He reached out and wiped the tears from the corner of my eyes. He reached out and hugged me, patting my back gently. Han Hao looked at Duanmu K in disbelief. What happened? You really didn't do it? Duanmu K nodded. He looked at Han Hao and nodded. I can swear to you that it definitely wasn't me, but I think I already know who it was. At this time, the Red Jew was stunned. She said, I know. Is it that Wang Luo? It hasn't been that long, so it can't be her. How could she have time to plan? You're underestimating her. She has a circle of friends, and they're all gangsters who don't do proper work. Wang Luo always hangs out with those people, so this matter is most likely done by her, Duanmu K said softly. Xai Niao looked at Duanmu Quebec, brother. Have you called her and asked? If it's really her, talk to her and see if she can return E to us. Duanmu K sighed. I just called her, but her phone was turned off. I also contacted her parents. They said that Wang Luo hasn't been home all day. In other words, we can't get in touch with her. I felt helpless. I sat on the chair again, unable to stop my tears. Then we can only wait for them to call, the Red Baron said softly. Han Hao sat next to me and gently patted my back. Darling, don't cry. I'll definitely save E. I'll ask a few friends to go out and look for her. You should rest well at home. Call me if anything happens. I leaned into Han Hao's arms, feeling like I had nothing left to live for. At this moment, my phone rang. I picked it up and saw that it was an unfamiliar number. Could it be the kidnapper? I quickly picked it up. Hello. Oh, you picked up pretty quickly. I guess you've already guessed who I am. The voice on the other end of the phone didn't sound familiar. Are you the one who kidnapped my daughter? Tell me, what do you want? I tried to calm myself down. You're quite straightforward. Bring 5 million in cash to the abandoned factory on the outskirts of the city at 11 o'clock at night. You're only allowed to come. If you dare to bring anyone else, I'll immediately kill this little girl. My hand trembled when I heard him say that. After thinking for a while, I said softly, let me hear my daughter's voice first. After waiting for a while, E's screams came from the other end of the phone. Mom, Dad, come and save me. It's so dark here. I'm so scared. Hearing E's crying voice, my heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. I couldn't help but cry again. How about it, Miss Lang? 5 million at 11 o'clock. Don't forget. He hung up. E. I shouted, but I couldn't hear E's voice at all. I gripped the phone tightly as I leaned over the table and cried out in pain. Han Hao was sitting next to me. He'd heard the contents of the phone call. Xin Yao and the others were very worried and asked what the kidnapper said, but I didn't have the strength to speak. Han Hao repeated the contents of the phone call to everyone. At this moment, the Red Baron ran out of the bedroom. After a while, she ran back with a bank card. She handed the card to me and said softly, Miss, this is the 10 million that was transferred. You should take it first. I don't think they can give you a bank card. You might have to go to many ATMs to withdraw the money. It's a very troublesome matter. At this moment, Suri walked over. He looked at me and said, Miss, leave the matter of withdrawing the money to me. He glanced at the time and said, There's still time. I'll be back in half an hour. I'll get Xin Yao to go with me. I looked at him and nodded. The Red Baron handed the bank card to Suri. Suri and Xin Yao both left. I was relieved to leave this matter to the two of them. Compared to this, I was more worried about E. It had been so long, and she'd said on the phone that it was dark and scary. She'd never left my side since she was young. Now that she was in danger alone, I was really worried. Han Hao looked at me and said softly, Darling, are you really going to go alone? I nodded and looked at him and said softly, What else can I do? The kidnappers specifically asked me to go. If you all go with me and something happens to E, I don't want to live anymore. So let me go. I'd rather exchange my life for E's. Han Hao hugged me and said softly, "Silly, nothing can happen to you. I won't allow anything to happen to you. I just got you and I'm about to build a happy family with you and Yi. How can I let anything happen to you? How about this? When it's about time, I'll drive you there and then I'll wait for you at the entrance of the abandoned factory. I won't go in with you. If anything happens to you, just give me a call and I'll rush in immediately. I have to ensure your and Yi's safety, okay?" I leaned into Han Hao's embrace and nodded. There was no other way. I just hoped that Yi could hold on until I went to save her. 11 o'clock was too late. I really wanted to go and save her as soon as possible. If I lost her, I wouldn't even have the meaning to live. Chapter 240. At this moment, Han Hao turned to Duanmu Ke and said, "Xiao Ke, come with me for a moment." Duanmu Ke nodded and walked out of the bedroom with Han Hao. Only the Red Baron and I were left in the room. The Red Baron sighed and looked at me. "You told Duanmu Ke about Yi's past?" I nodded. "Yeah, I can't hide it anymore. He's Yi's biological father, so he'll find out about Yi's past sooner or later. It's better to tell him now." "Then what about saving Yi? Are you going to do it yourself?" The Red Baron looked at me helplessly as she linked her arms with mine. I nodded. "Yeah, I'm going to save Yi myself. That's what the kidnappers said. They want me to go alone. I won't be at ease if I don't see Yi. You know that Yi has never left my side. Now that she's in danger, my heart is about to break. I'd rather be in danger than let her be in danger." The Red Baron thought for a moment and looked at me. "Let me go," she said. I stared blankly at the Red Baron. The Red Baron smiled and said, "Let me go. The kidnappers don't know who Cold Glaze is. Won't it make the same difference if I go or you go? So let me go." "No way. How can I let you put yourself in danger? You don't have to worry about it. I have to go personally. What if someone knows Cold Glaze? Both you and Yi might be in trouble. You've done a lot for me. How can I let you put your life in danger again? Red Baron, listen to me. You have to trust me." I gripped the Red Baron's shoulder tightly as I spoke to her in a serious tone. The Red Baron looked at me and nodded helplessly. She said softly, "All right, I'll listen to you. But you have to listen to me on two things. First, you have to set off to save Yi. I'll follow you in secret and I won't let anyone find out. Also, I have to tell the president and his wife about Yi's kidnapping. I know you'll definitely refuse, but you have to listen to me on this matter because you're going to be in danger too. The president and his wife have to have the right to know about this." "You?" I looked at Red Jew. She had already thought of everything for me while I was in a mess and helped me deal with a lot of problems. I looked at Red Jew with tears in my eyes. I nodded and said to her, "Okay, I got it. I promise you that I can tell my parents. After all, they have to be mentally prepared if something happens to Yi. However, you must not be too direct when you tell them. I'm afraid that the two of them won't be able to take it. After all, the elderly love their children. After all, they're very old." "That's for sure," the Red Baron said softly as she looked outside the door. "Don't you want to hear what Han Hao and Duanmu Ke are talking about?" I shook my head and said, "I don't want to know. It's nothing more than a conversation between brothers. I don't want to hear it either. They're used to bickering." As soon as I said that, Duanmu Ke and Han Hao walked into the bedroom. Han Hao looked at me and smiled. He walked to my side and hugged me gently. After a while, Suri and Xinyao came back with a suitcase. Suri handed the suitcase to me and said, "Miss, we've finally collected it after running through half the city. We're exhausted. Luckily, we made it in time. What should we do later? Let's go together." The Red Baron shook her head. She looked at Suri and said, "Let's do it this way. I'll arrange the rescue for Yi today. I know that I don't have much status in front of you, but I have the most experience. I hope you can trust me." Everyone looked at each other, then looked at Red Jew and nodded. Red Jew continued, "This kidnapper is very shrewd at first glance. Because the sound of the video has been processed, the money to be given to the kidnapper must be real money. Therefore, according to the kidnapper's request, the money must be personally delivered by the young lady. Because Han Hao was not at ease and was also afraid that the other party would secretly follow them, Han Hao sent the young lady to the abandoned factory, but he had to stop at the door. Then, the young lady walked in with her suitcase. Han Hao had to stay in the car and absolutely could not get out of the car and go with the young lady. Xinyao will stay at home. After all of us depart, we'll tell the president and his wife about this matter. Then, we'll call the police. Duanmu K, I'll have to trouble you to go to Wang Le's house and tell her father everything that happened today. Also, you have to tell him about Wang Lu'er's friends. After Han Hao and Miss depart, Suri and I will secretly follow them. We just have to make sure that no one notices us. Then, after Miss enters the factory, Suri and I will sneak into the factory. This way, if the kidnappers really make a move, we'll be able to fight back." Duanmu K thought for a moment. Then, he looked at the Red Baron and said, "Your plan is very thorough, but is it appropriate to let Xiaoli go in alone? I'm more worried that something will happen to her." "That won't happen. I definitely won't let myself get hurt. It's fine. Let's just follow the Red Baron's suggestion. I think it's very thorough. As long as every aspect is well prepared, we won't have any problems. If Wang Lu'er really did it, I'll make her pay the price this time." I clenched my fists tightly. Han Hao glanced at the time. There were still 2 hours until 11 o'clock. Han Hao looked at everyone and said, "There's still some time. Everyone, go back to your rooms and rest for a while. In an hour, gather in the living room. Red Baron, please arrange a place for Duanmu K to rest." The Red Baron nodded. Everyone left the bedroom except for Han Hao and I. "So, for ease sake, I am willing to wait for you in the car. But you must call me immediately if anything happens. No matter what happens, I will rush to your side, okay?" Han Hao held me in his arms and gently stroked my hair. I leaned into his arms and said softly, "Xiao Hao, if something happens to me, I hope you can forget about me and find a woman who loves you to start a new life. I didn't belong to you in the first place, and now it seems like fate has arranged it. If something really happens to me, you must find happiness." Chapter 241. Don't spout nonsense. You're the only one I've ever loved in my life, so I only want to be with you. Don't think too much. I want to be with you. Don't worry, and you will come back safely. Don't worry, you have to trust me. Han Hao hugged me in his arms. My heart was in a mess. I didn't know what would happen next, but I wasn't afraid at all. I wanted to save my daughter. I had to save her successfully. Han Hao rested with me for an hour. When it was time for us to meet, everyone gathered in the living room. Suri and the Red Baron had already changed into their night clothes. Xinyao's eyes were red. She must have cried. Actually, she really loved Yi. Whenever I was busy, she would take care of Yi. Moreover, she had groomed Yi to have a very avant-garde fashion point. It seemed like she wanted to bring Yi into the fashion industry. When the Red Baron saw that everyone had gathered, he said, "All right, let's follow the plan we discussed earlier." The Red Baron turned to look at me and said softly, "Missy, you have to be careful. If there's any danger, don't rush forward on your own. Do you understand? I don't want you to be in danger. If there's anything, you have to call for help." I nodded and everyone went their separate ways. Duanmu K left the house first and went straight to Wang Lu'er's house. I got into Han Hao's car and sat in the front passenger seat. There was 5 million in cash in the back seat. I was still very nervous. I panted and tried to calm myself down. Han Hao could tell that I was nervous. He put his hand on my hand and comforted me. I smiled at him and we set off on our journey to the abandoned factory. Han Hao drove very steadily because he had made an appointment with Suri and the rest. He controlled the speed at 60 miles per hour. Suri's car left 10 minutes later than ours. When we reached the fork in the road, we took the main road while they took the smaller road to reach the abandoned factory earlier. The fork in the road was about 20 minutes away from the abandoned factory, so it was impossible for the kidnappers to find us. Han Hao and I didn't speak on the way. He knew that I liked to be alone when something happened, so he didn't disturb me. Finally, we arrived at the entrance of the abandoned factory. I looked around and saw that the entire factory was shrouded in darkness. It was so eerie that it looked like it was going to swallow people whole. I sighed. Han Hao held my hand and hugged me. He said softly, "Darling, don't be afraid. Don't worry. I'll always be here with you. Darling, I'll wait for you to come back. I'll definitely wait for you to come back. You have to be careful. Call me immediately if there's anything, okay?" Han Hao's eyes were wet. He held my face and kissed me gently. I couldn't help but cry. I reached out to touch his face and said, "All right, don't worry. I'll be back soon. You have to wait for me." I let go of his hand, turned around, and got out of the car. I walked to the back seat and took my suitcase. I closed the door and walked into the factory without looking back. I heard Han Hao shouting for me from behind. He had promised the Red Baron that he wouldn't get out of the car. I could hear the helplessness in his hoarse voice. I didn't think too much about it. I walked into the factory. There were many abandoned buildings in the factory compound. I didn't know which building the kidnappers had taken them to. I stood in the middle of the courtyard and looked at the time. It was already the appointed time. Then, my phone rang. I picked it up and saw that it was a call from one of the kidnappers. I answered the call. "Hello, where do you want to go?" "I already saw you. You're in the building on the left. Come in." The call ended and I looked up at the building on the left. There was a figure standing on the 3rd floor. It looked like the kidnappers. I sighed and walked over with my suitcase. I hadn't taken 2 steps when I saw a black figure standing at the foot of the wall. It was none other than the Red Baron. She nodded at me. I pretended to be calm and walked towards the building. It looked like Suri had already gone into hiding. The Red Baron must have come to give me a hint. I carried my suitcase and walked into the building. It was so dark that I couldn't see anyone at all. I stood near the door and shouted, "I'm here. I'm here to save my daughter. Come out." I waited for a while, but there was no answer. I shouted again. Then I heard the sound of footsteps. It was the sound of many people's footsteps. I also heard a choked cry. It must have been E's voice, but it sounded more like whimpers. She must have been gagged. I shouted, "E, is that you?" At this time, a light 30 meters away from me lit up. It was so bright that I couldn't open my eyes. I blocked it with my hand. When I came back to my senses, I saw a dozen people standing under the light. One of the men was holding E in his arms. E was tied up and gagged. When she saw me, she cried even louder. I shouted, "E, let go of her. I've brought what you want. Give my daughter back to me." Looking at E's suffering appearance, I couldn't stop the tears from flowing down from the corners of my eyes. At this time, the sound of high-heeled footsteps came from behind a nearby pillar. When she came in front of me, I saw that it was Wang Lu. She walked up to me, took my arm, and looked at me with contempt. It was as if she wanted to eat me. I looked at her angrily, but E was still in their hands. I couldn't be too impulsive. Wang Lu looked at me and sneered. "Did you bring the money?" I handed the suitcase to her and said, "I brought it. It's all inside. You can count it." Wang Lu snapped her fingers, and a man came from behind. He took the suitcase from my hands and opened it in front of us. He began to count the money. I looked at Wang Lu and said, "Can you give E back to me now?" Wang Lu glanced at the person who was counting the money. Then, she snapped her fingers. The man who was carrying Yi came over and handed Yi to Wang Le. From a close distance, I could see that Yi's face was red. It seemed that she had been crying all the time. However, her face was pale. It seemed that she was frightened or dehydrated. I took a step forward and reached out to grab Yi from Wang Le's hands. However, I was pushed away by the man next to her. After the man finished counting the money, he looked at Wang Le and said, "Miss, the money is correct. It's all real. However, it's not a serial number. It looks like it was pieced together." Wang Le sneered at me and said, "It seems that you care a lot about your daughter. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.